Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David checking in with you. Welcome to Secrets of Human Influence for Persuasion, Attraction, Connection, and Charisma. I'll be your host for the next, 2 to 3 hours, sharing with you some of the most powerful, user-friendly, simple to learn and use techniques for influencing anyone, anytime, anywhere, for any reason. Now, that's a big claim. That's a big, I guess, boast if you want to take it, but you don't got to believe me. If you stick with me for the next 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on what you want, I'm going to teach you some of the most powerful ways to influence people to like you, love you, trust you, feel attraction for you. And that's just the beginning, right? The pieces I'm going to share with you are experiential. It's not enough for you to just sit there and take notes. We're going to be putting you through exercises, experiences. We are a school of what we call embodiment training. And what that means for you is very simple. It doesn't, these techniques don't do you any good on a page, on a piece of paper where you read the notes. You've got to feel them to understand them. So before we get into the bulk of the training, and I want you to think of this as a personal free training for you. Yes, it's a webinar. Yes, there's an offer connected to it, but this is your time to learn something that has truly changed my life, the lives of thousands of other people all over the world. They don't rely on any form of belief system except other than a willingness to be playful and use these techniques. Okay, so before I get into content, let me just address a few things. First of all, thank you all for coming in and spending some time with me. This class is your class. My job is to give you as much information as humanly possible in the time that we have and point you in the direction of where to go to take it to the next level. So here's where I'm going to start with promises. If you stick with me for the course of this webinar, I'm going to teach you in no uncertain terms the fastest, simplest, user-friendly way to control and direct your and other people's emotions, control their thoughts, direct their thoughts, have people hanging on your every word, have them feel such an intense connection to you that the very idea of losing your validation, of losing your approval is actually painful for them. I'm going to teach you how to turn on charisma anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances, whether that's one-on-one. And if we have time, I'll show you a little bit about how that relates to groups. I'm going to show you how to bypass conscious and unconscious resistance to the things you want. And those are just the things I'm going to start with. If you really, truly want to understand yourself and every human being you interact with, this is going to be one of the most important classes you've ever attended. And that's how I want you to think about it. This is think of it like your fast start program into a whole system of human influence that will serve you from therapy work and healing people to getting dates and creating powerful relationships to recruiting clients or team members for your business, for writing marketing copy, for creating any set of kind of promotional material. The simple fact is that any place where language is involved, now think about that for a moment, any place that language is involved, these techniques work, and they work well, and they work ethically. Let me repeat that. They work ethically. When you use these techniques in whatever context you're learning them for, people will automatically feel like they've known you a lot longer than they have. They will feel connected to you. They will feel like you're an important person in their world. They will tend to give your words more authority, more trust, and connection than anybody, even people who've known them for 10, 20 years, right? I'm going to put you through a series of exercises today for the simple, so that you can have the experience of these things. Now, before we get into content, I have some administrative things I want to get out so that you can get the most out of this webinar. First and foremost, we do not teach regular 90-minute buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff webinars. We don't do that. There is an offer connected to tonight's program, And we'll talk about that in phase 2. We call that the next, taking it to the next level, or taking it further level. In level 1, which is it's going to run anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. I am going to take you down the rabbit hole of human influence. I'm going to teach you in no uncertain terms how people think, what hot buttons they respond to, and how you can ethically link those buttons to whatever you want them to do, so that they want to do the things you want them to do. We're going to give you foundations. Now, the things I'm going to share with you, you can find analogs and research that back them up in fields of social psychology, neuroscience, therapy, hostage negotiation. This is stuff that a lot of different sources have validated independently of one another. Okay. And you don't even need to believe it for it to be true. Now, what I'm going to do, because I do have 2 different chats going, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So hold on a second while I close a lot of superfluous windows. I'm going to talk about how to get your questions answered once I figure out why my chat window is not opening. Or maybe it is. Oh, it is opening. Okay. So first and foremost, before we go any further, how many people is this your first time in Planet David? Go ahead and type your name, where you're checking in from, and first time in the chats. Now, those of you who are joining us on YouTube, which is quite a few of you, remember that there is a lag between when I speak here through the Zoom app and it shows up in your feed, but the chats are in real time. So if you if you ask a question in the chat and I either don't see it, or there's a delay, or you don't answer it right away, that could be one of the reasons. And while we're on the topic of questions, let's talk about the one thing that you all are going to have in common. You're all going to have questions. You're all going to have questions like, well, what about this, David? Or what about this? Or how can I do this? Or something like that. That's fine. There's 3 ways you can get your questions answered tonight. A, type it in the chat. If it is relevant to the point we are at in the webinar, I will answer your question right then and there. If I don't see your question, or I don't think it is relevant to the point we're at in the webinar, if it's going to take us down a rabbit hole that we don't have time for, then I may see your question, but I may choose not to acknowledge it or answer it, just to keep us on track. Now, that's the first way to get your question answered. For those of you who are brand new to Planet David, right? If I don't answer your question, keep asking it. By a show of hands, how many of you are veterans in Planet David? How many of you have been around 3, 4, 5, 6 months, a year, 10 years or longer? Type that in the chat. If you've been, type your name, how long you've been in Planet David, and don't raise your hands, guys. Type it in the chat, because I don't have time to look at the hands raised. Type it in the chat so people can actually see who's here. Okay. Remember, this is a class, and while I can't do breakouts like I would normally do, I want you guys to feel like you're part of something special, and you are. You truly are. I'm your teacher I'm your mentor for the next 3 or 4 hours. Hopefully, you're going to put your faith in me and do what I'm going to ask you to do, and your faith is going to be rewarded. So that being said, I see lots of questions popping up, and I get that. It's better if you ask questions in the chat so I see them. But again, if I don't see your question, or it's not relevant to where we're at, keep asking it. Veterans, if you see their question and you have direct experience using one of our techniques or some of our theories or principles and have solved that problem in your life, feel free to reach out and answer them. The only thing that I ask is that you make the answer brief, so that it doesn't take their attention away from the body of the content of the webinar, right? I often see conversations flowing back and forth in the chats. And the problem is if you're paying attention to everything that's going on in the chat, you're not paying attention to the content I want you to get through and internalize. Okay. So we are very much a Gnostic school of human influence. In other words, it's not enough to learn it and hear me talk about it. I want you to experience it. So I'm going to guide you through experiences. The third way you can get your question answered is very simple. At the end of this webinar, YouTube is automatically going to create a copy of this and post it in the live content section of my YouTube channel. If your question has not been answered to your satisfaction, or you just want my input on something, if you go to the comment section of the YouTube channel, after this webinar, I make it a point every day to go through my YouTube channel comments 5, 6, 7 times, especially the week of a webinar. And I will personally answer every single question that you answer. It'll either be like, yeah, yes, do this, go here, I don't know, let me find out. But I promise you, I will answer your questions in the order that they're received. Okay, so again, there's 3 ways to get your questions answered. Next, make sure you have something to write with and something to write on. Now, let me clarify that. When I say write with and write on, I don't mean to type with and to type on. I want a pen or a pencil in your hand. I want some kind of notebook below the pencil. Why? Because some of the drills I'm going to guide you through today work better on any nervous system that can physically do the movements. Typing adds an extra layer of, think of it like firewall or insulation between the impact it has on your neurology and physically making the movements of print on a page. So I want you to get the most programming out of this training. And the way you do that is to simply follow my instruction. The last piece, or 2 last pieces before we get into content, is going to be this. A, make sure you have lots of caffeinated substances and lots of substances that are high in either dopamine or oxytocin or both. Why? Because I want you to be in as neuroplastic a state as humanly possible. I want you to be in a state where all the things that we're sharing with you, all the things we're telling you, go right into your neurology and become planted like seeds that are going to grow. And the more neuroplasticity we generate in your brain, the more rapidly the experiences you're going to have are going to take root and give you the ability to do these things out in the real world. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, type that makes sense in the chat. Okay, my Zoomers, you guys are either super quiet. I think you're all answering me in the chat for some reason, but that's okay. All right, so I see our YouTube contingent. James has been around for 9 years. Brian Sullivan's joining us from Brisbane. Tony Margulies is with us, 7 years. Avant-Garde, 5 years. Wow. Holy cow, guys. 5, 6, 7 years. That's amazing. Matthew Boyd is coming with us from Vegas. Irreducible. Lots of people. Excellent. So the next thing. If politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, this is probably not the best use of your next 3 hours. My intention is never to offend or insult anyone, but I do have a very provocative presentation style. And if something I said creates an emotional response in you, I want you to point to where you feel it, write down where you feel it, because that is something that you need to explore later using the transformational triad or some of the other emotional clearing techniques that we teach on the channel. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, go ahead and type that makes sense in the chat. Okay, so everybody's with us? Okay, all right, so that being said, let's go ahead and jump into what I lovingly call the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show. Once again, please remember that the things I'm going to share with you are not theoretical. They are proven over and over again in many fields of engagement. You don't need to believe them. They are part of an overall system that we do teach. We'll show you how to get access to that system later on in the webinar. But if this is the scope of everything there is to learn in the realms of human influence and behavior, we have time for this much. So my question for you is, my commitment to you is, I'm going to take you as far as I can down the rabbit hole of human influence. I'm going to empower you as much as humanly possible. And then I'm going to point you in the direction of where to go to take the next step, just so I have your permission, your understanding, your support. Is that fair? If that's fair and it's okay to do that, go ahead and type that's fair. It's okay to do that in the chats. Okay. Now, the more you interact, the chat in Zoom is disabled. Oh, thank you for letting me know. How do I fix that? Brandon or Stephanie, can we re-enable chat so people can actually talk to me? Okay, I will let my intrepid crew work on that. Those of you who are inadvertently silenced by our renegade chat function, bear with us. Hopefully our people will get to that ASAP. All right, let's get this started. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my PowerPoint just for a moment. Probably one of the most important things that people want to know when we begin to explore this stuff is, well, who the hell is David Snyder and why should I care? First and foremost, I am one of the world's leading authorities on neurolinguistic programming and conversational hypnosis. My doctorate, believe it or not, is actually in Oriental medicine, acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I'm actually also working on a second doctorate right now on Chinese medical Qigong therapy, which is teaching me all the things I originally went to acupuncture school to learn about, which involves the mind, the spirit, the energy, all the things that were left out when the communists took over or erased when the communists took over the Chinese medical professions. Anyway, I won't get into that, but I am an actual doctor of Chinese medicine. I've had a practice in Solana Beach for over almost 20 years now, where my specialty has been treating physiological illness that is caused by repressed emotion. So as a byproduct of my clinical practice, in addition to everything else, I've got to witness firsthand exactly how the human mind and emotions work and how we manifest our own illnesses and diseases. Now, while most people who study NLP or hypnosis, they get presented with things like weight loss or smoke cessation, or every now and then a social phobia, my specialty has been largely chronic illness, chronic and terminal illness, and trauma work. And so I've had the opportunity to really understand how people work from the inside out and how that relates to influencing them in the most powerful and ethical and honest way humanly possible. And so it's really influenced how I teach people to become more effective in getting the things they want. Is the chat working now? It looks like something just came up. For those of you who did not know, in 2020, I was named the #1 NLP trainer in the world by globalgurus.org. And for the last 7 years, at least 7 years that I can count, I have been in the top 2 NLP trainers in the world as per the voting by you in globalgurus.com or org. Okay. So I've authored over 15 different products on various forms of human influence, everything from how to get a job, how to heal people through conversational hypnosis, how to win job interviews, complete systems of storytelling and metaphor, how to convert people into clients from the stage, how to overcome and change beliefs in just minutes. And that's just to name a few. One of my most proud creations is what you're seeing here is in 2020, my program, Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnosis, was named the #1 NLP program in the world by globalgurus.org. I didn't even know I was in the running for this. I didn't even know this was a thing. In 2022, my next level training in the Killer Influence series was named also the #1 NLP training program of 2022. And what you're seeing here is a letter from Global Gurus letting me know that we've won for like the 3rd year in a row. In terms of the program. And the reason I'm telling you this is I have a proud papa moment, but also because many of the techniques that you're going to learn today are from that course. And if you stay till the end, I will show you how to not only get access to this course, I will teach you how to get access to a program that is so powerful and so pervasive that you won't probably ever need anything else ever again. Now that's a big claim, but just bear with me and we'll see what comes next. Now, just so you know, and this again is a copy of our Global Gurus page where you see NLP Power and Killer Influence is the #1. And you can see here all the courses that it beat out. All right. I'm also a lifelong martial artist. I'm a grandmaster, 10th degree black belt in Ryukyu Kempo Karate. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kun Tao, 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo Ru, 1st degree black belt in Fanku Ru Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a certified instructor in Combat Sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, Modern Arnis, basic level, And I like to make a joke that I have more energy healing credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I've been a Reiki master teacher since before Reiki was cool. I've been studying Kabbalah almost as long, since before Madonna ever heard of Kabbalah. So I'm very much a prima donna. I'm certified as an advanced pranic healer and pranic psychotherapist, advanced DNA theta healing and manifestation teacher. I'm certified in the Bengston energy healing system. And as I mentioned before, I'm working on my doctorate in Taoist energetic Chinese medicine, which is medical Qigong. Okay. So when people look at this stuff, now people ask me, why do I even bring this up? Because I have discovered that persuasion is kind of like a martial art. And if you train it like you train your martial arts, you get really, really good, really, really fast with no BS. You know, in seconds, this shit either works or it doesn't. But a lot of people, when they see all of these credentials and all of these trainings, they always ask, why do I need to know this? What do all these, why is this important? It's because of what they have in common. What they have in common, my friends, is something called pattern recognition. Every single thing human beings do, from the energy fields that make up their subtle bodies, to the thought processes that they have, to the belief systems that they hold, to the words that come out of their mouth, to the very movements they make with their body, have a structure and a pattern that repeats and can be predicted and influenced. And when you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the mind to understand this concept of pattern recognition, the universe and every human being that you encounter will open up to you like a book that you can just read and know exactly what to say, how to say it, and when to say it, to get them to want to do the very things you want them to do completely ethically and honestly. You will never, ever have to lie, cheat, steal, or misrepresent anything ever again to get what you want. And to me, that's the gold standard of human influence. When you can do things that make people want to do the things you want to do, you can literally write your ticket in this world. I see our chat function is on. So once again, if you're brand new, type in brand new, where you're checking in from. What do you want to take away from today's webinar? If you're a veteran, let people know how long you've been bebopping around Planet David, and be ready to answer questions as they come up. So when I talk about pattern recognition, what all these things have to do with human influence? Bottom line, pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. So is this class for you? Let me ask you a question. I'm about to go through my little laundry list to make sure that you are in the right place and that you actually have the right mindset. Hold on a second. I just screwed up my PowerPoint. Or did I? No. I skipped all the way to the end of my PowerPoint, so now I got to scroll all the way back up because it won't let me scroll. Hold on a second. See, David actually is a live person. It's not an auto webinar. So by show of hands, guys, is this class for you? If you can answer yes to any three of the questions that I'm about to ask you, you're in the right place and you really need to pay attention and follow the instructions. So how many of you, by a show of that's for me in the chat room, would like to be more attractive to the opposite sex and make them find you charming, fascinating, and irresistible? Let me add a caveat or an extension to that. If you would like to be the most fascinating person in any room you're in at any moment, type that's for me in the chat. If you'd like to remove fear and insecurity from your life, become more confident, radiate confidence, be more alpha, more authoritative, more certain in your life. Neil Calmo says, David, how can I become more attractive than I already am? Trust me, there's always another level. Right? Earl Thompson says that's for me. Great. If you'd like to learn how to protect yourself from the persuasion predators of the world, one of the things I always tell my students is that if you're not able, ready, and willing to control your state, there are lots of highly funded, well-resourced, highly trained three-letter agencies out there. They don't all just begin with CIA or NSA. Some of them begin with ABC, CBS, right? FOX, right? There are lots of highly trained, well-funded agencies that are happy to control your state for you. If you're tired of being played like a pawn, like a chess piece in other people's persuasion game, type "that's for me" in the chat. We're going to teach you some really powerful shit. If you'd like the master keys to making more money from your job, booking more clients for your business, getting the raise or promotion that you know you deserve, type "that's for me" in the chat. Okay. If you'd like to have people thinking, feeling, and acting the way you want them to and naturally follow your lead, type that in the chat, right? If you'd like to program yourself, big one. If you'd like to program yourself for massive financial abundance with more than enough money to buy the things you want and then some without necessarily having to work any harder, just smarter, type that in the chat, right? If you'd like to be able to nail any job you get, any job interview that you go for, type that in the chat, right? Not uncommon for a lot of people who use this technology to get hired for jobs they're not even qualified on paper for, but the interviewer loves them so much that they're willing to just waive all that or put them through school. It's insane, right? And again, remember, you don't have to lie, cheat, or steal. You just got to understand the person in front of you from their map of the world and match it. It's really that simple. If you'd like to be a better leader, if you'd like to give people change people's mindsets, including your own, for the better, if you'd like to be able to bring teams together in a way that they gel and communicate and work effectively, if you want to be able to do that, type that in the chat. If you'd like to do this with your spouse or your children, type that in the chat too. Okay. If you've ever wondered if it's actually possible to have people just go into this deep level trance just by talking to them and put them in the state where they're most open and receptive to your influence, even if you know nothing about hypnosis or NLP or any of that, type that in the chat, right? If you answered yes to any of the three things that I mentioned, you're in the right place. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to up your percentage with anything you do. Would that be helpful? Would you like me to teach you how to be better, up to 30% better or more at everything? If that's a yes, type it in the chat. Okay, here it is. One of the things I'm going to share with you in tonight's webinar is something known as the Universal Persuasion Protocol. Now, because it's a 3-hour webinar and that's easily a 3-day class worth of training right there, I can't teach you every single nuance about it. What I am going to do is give you an overview of it very shortly. But one of the first things you're going to see, there's two things I want you to pay attention to. The first one is know your outcome. In other words, what do I want? This is a big deal, okay? What do I want? I want you to keep what it is you want from tonight and from training with me at the top of your mind as you go through this and ask yourself, how can I use this? How can I use this, right? Because again, I'm here to show you the shortest path between where you are and where you want to get to. If you follow my instructions and you do what I say, you'll get there in the shortest amount of time humanly possible. But it has to start with knowing what you want, right? So if you know what it is and you want to write it down on your little notepad, because we're going to be doing some exercises later that involve this, because one of the things you're going to learn how to do on this webinar is how to emotionally bond yourself to the emotional triggers that make people want to take an action. We call it if we're doing it together as a self-work drill, it's called the emotional motivation checklist. And that's what I'm going to do with you. Then what we're going to do is we're going to show you the persuasion, the external persuasion version of it, which is called the emotional bonding checklist. And this is a variation of the same process that when you use it effectively with anyone, it will weld everything they want at a deep emotional values level to exactly what you're offering in a completely ethical way. And they will, in most cases, literally ask you to buy it or ask to take the next step with you. It eliminates 90% of all the resistance that you will face in just about any form of human interaction. Okay, this phenomenon is so powerful that a person can't actually go against these values that we're going to teach you how to access without experiencing emotional pain. Now, your job as a practitioner of these skills is very, very simple. Your job is to move through the world, making everyone you meet feel ridiculously good, because that's the other side of values bonding, is that they can't talk about the value. They can't talk about the rules and that thing, that emotional drive, without experiencing one of two things. It's either one or the other, or both: intense pleasure and intense desire. And in the world of persuasion and influence, those are the money shots, for lack of to be a little more politically incorrect, right? If you want people to want to do the things you want them to do, you must have them bond and weld what they need and desire at a deep emotional level to what you offer. I'm going to give you the exact steps for doing that. It's actually quite simple. Okay. I'm going to try to minimize jargon, but two things I want you to know. The first one is, what do you want? The second is control your state. Okay. People don't make decisions in spite of what they tell you, what they believe. People don't make decisions based on data. They don't make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on the emotional state they're in. So if you can master the ability to control your own emotional state, then not only do you have the master keys to be in control of any situation, you also have the master key to unlocking anybody else's state and moving them from where they are to the state that they need to be in to do what you want them to do voluntarily. Does that make sense? If you're with me so far, if everything I said makes sense and you want to learn more, type it in the chat. Okay, good. All right, so let me go back to, all right, so here's my personal promise to you. If you bear with me and you stay until the end of the webinar, I will teach you the fastest, most powerful way and ethical way to influence anyone to like, love, trust, and obey you. How to have people hanging on your every word, how them salivating to do what you want them to do, how to control your emotions and remove resistance to your influence, and give you the exact steps that you need to take your life, to take the content of this webinar from just interesting information to maximum persuasion skills in minimum time. Does that sound fair? Okay. To further that end, we're going to talk about one of my favorite techniques and tools, and I call it the secret backdoor into the human nervous system for unstoppable influence and maximum attention, focus, and connection. One of the things that my good friend Chase Hughes likes to talk about is the levers of suggestibility, right? And 3 of those levers are openness, connection, and focus. I'm going to teach you using one technique how to take someone who's at, maybe a 3 level of attention, focus, and connection and ramp it up to 11 on a 10 scale. It's that powerful. I'm going to teach you the secrets of emotional bonding and attraction, which is what I alluded to earlier. I'm going to teach you about, we don't have time to cover them all, 4 meta groups of skills I call the pillars of irresistible influence, right? We'll talk about how to remove resistance to your influence. If someone tells you they don't want to do something, how can you actually talk to them in a way that they suddenly want to do it? I'm going to teach you how to do that. All these skills are going to allow you to do the one thing you really want, but use different words to describe it. That word is going to allow you to take control of your life. It's going to allow you to walk into any situation or circumstance and exert maximum influence, ethically and honestly, in minimum time. That's what it's about. Okay. So that being said, let me close the loop. By a show of hands in the chat, that's me in the chat. How many of you would like to be up to 30% better at everything? How many? Cool. I got a bunch of people raising their hands, a bunch of people in the chat. Okay. Here's the secret, and it goes right to the first 2 parts of the webinar I talked about. Remember I said you got to know your outcome? You got to control your state. If you can adopt and maintain a playful, curious, explorational, let's see what happened state where you're kind of laid back, you will be up to 30% more aware, perceptive, eloquent, adaptable, charismatic, and persuasive. And the people that you interact with will be up to 31% more compliant, more open to your influence. And this is something I teach when I teach attraction skills to people. One of the things I tell people is that if you approach a person with a sexual agenda, if you try to come up to them and you hit on them and sex is on your mind, that energy that you're feeling actually ripples out through your proprioceptive nervous system. Their mirror neurons pick it up and they get creeped out. If you want to generate attraction in people, you have to take the sexual part off. You have to just put it on a shelf and approach people in a fun, playful, curious attitude. Because when you approach people with a fun, playful, easygoing attitude, their mirror neurons pick that up and it reflects that statement. Their defenses go down, right? This was validated by Chris Voss when he was doing hostage negotiation, that when the hostage negotiator approached the bad guy, the hostage taker, with an explorational, laid back, easygoing, non-confrontational attitude, the bad guy, the hostage taker, was up to 31% more compliant. Let me ask you this. How would your life change if you had, for every 10 people that you talked to, 30% more of them said yes to you? What would happen in your life if you heard yes 30% more? What would happen in your life if you could learn things 30% faster? If you made 30% less mistakes? All you have to do is master the state of relaxed, playful, easygoing, explorational me. Now, rather than just talk about it, how many of you would like to actually experience it? Anybody? Okay, so for my next trick, which is not a trick, it's a technique. One of the first things, let me show you my PowerPoint really quick so you can understand where this is coming from and where it falls in to the training. Is that okay? I don't like PowerPoints, but I understand why they're necessary. Sometimes if you want to take a screenshot of this, you're more than welcome to do that. So let me share my screen. Okay, so what you're seeing here is called the Universal Persuasion Protocol. And you see right up here, there's a 0 step, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in your own way, out loud, in the privacy of your own home or your car, I want you to repeat after me, after you know your outcome, after you know what it is you want to achieve. You're going to control your state. You're going to get rapport. You're going to use your language. You're going to use those 3 to manage the state of your subject. You're going to jump into their process and you're going to bond or link to their values and criteria. That's called the emotional bonding checklist. Once again, we're going to do this 3 times, so you have time to do a screenshot if that's what you need, but also so you understand that the reason we call this the Universal Persuasion Protocol is because it works everywhere. You need to teach a class. What's the first thing you're going to do? Know your outcome. Second thing, you're going to control your state. What's the second thing? You're going to get rapport. You're going to use your language. You're going to manage the state of the audience or the classroom. You're going to jump into whatever processes they use to learn well. And then you're going to bond what you're teaching them to the things they want most in life. Okay, let's say you're out at a club or at a wedding reception and you see somebody that you find attractive and you want to get to know. What's the first thing you're going to do? Define for yourself what it is you want. Then you're going to control your state. You're going to get rapport. You're going to use your language. You're going to manage the state of the subject. You're going to pay attention and jump into whatever processes they use for deciding to do what you want them to do. And then you're going to bond to their emotional drives and needs using their own words to do it. Okay, let's say you're on a webinar, right? And you want the people on your webinar to really get the most out of the training. So what are you going to do? You're going to put them through exercise. You're going to know what you want. You're going to control your own state. You're going to get rapport with that audience. You're going to use the language skills that you possess. To do what? To manage the state of the audience. You're going to jump into their processes. Usually starts with their using their very own words and the things they want most. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to bond to the emotional needs that they came to you to satisfy. And you're going to point them in the direction that they need to go to get those needs met. Does that sound like a win-win situation? If you said anything other than yes, think again. Okay? That's the universal persuasion protocol. If you're getting if you get pulled over and you want to get out of a speeding ticket, guess what you got to do? You got to know your outcome. You got to control your state. You got to get rapport with the police officer. You got to use your language. You got to manage their state, jump into their process, and bond to their emotional reasons for wanting to let you go in the first place. If you have a client in front of you or a team that you want to motivate or lead, what are you going to do? Know your outcome, control your state, get rapport, use your language, manage their state, jump into their process, bond to their emotional drives and needs. Do you get it? Is the process registering for you? Yes or yes? Okay. I've taught this to personal injury attorneys who have pulled down multiple seven-figure verdicts against hostile judges. I've seen them use this in voir dire. I've seen expert witnesses for the defense voluntarily waive their attorney-client privilege just to answer my students' questions using just the first three of these. Okay. Seth says 9 figures. Oh, that was the $1 billion deal that one of my guys closed. Yeah. Manage their state. I'm glad 2 Cents Boxing is asking manage their state. What does that mean? I'm glad you asked. I'm happy to talk about it. Okay. So before we get into, so this is the Universal Persuasion Protocol. I don't have time to teach you every nuance, but this is the big picture. Okay. We're going to focus on a couple of things that actually cut through 3 or 4 of these levels. So you're going to, when you get really good at it, you only need 2 or 3 of these to be effective anywhere. Now, one of the last things I'll talk about is notice how this is kind of in the shape of a target. Here's why that is. When you follow it in a linear progression, it tells you first do this, then 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 do this, right? It's in a target because everything on the periphery works on anyone who can see you, hear you, or read what you're writing. Let me repeat that. The things on the outside are global. They work on anybody who's within your sphere of influence. In the room with you, on a Zoom call, a webinar, a classroom, reading your email, a chat, any place where human interaction and language is involved, this affects everyone. And not just the person you're directing it at, it affects everyone. Then what do? Getting rapport also affects everyone within your sphere of influence. But because rapport is more specific to people, it's a little bit more targeted. Then you use your language. The language you use affects everyone who can hear it. But once you understand who's in front of you, your language can get more and more targeted so that you can manage the state of your subject. You take an inventory of where they're at, where you want them to be. You use these 3 techniques to get there, these 3 levels to get there. Then you jump into whatever natural process they would normally engage in, and you bond to their emotions. Okay? Now, each level magnifies the level that comes before it. But as you can see, it gets progressively more specific. So each level amplifies the power that came before. But as you get stronger and stronger in your influence, it gets more and more specific to a person or a specific group of people who all have the same values and rules. Does that make sense? Stephen has asked me, can you explain how to use derived meanings in transderivational searches? Yes, I can. It is not necessary nor relevant for this training. In fact, Stephen, it will actually complicate your ability to do these things. So Yes, I can, but for the sake of fast, easy, effective learning, I'm going to take a rain check or put a pin in that if that's okay. Okay. All right. Is everybody with me? Okay. So here's our first drill. We're going to learn to control our state. So if you're driving, okay, if you're driving, don't do this. Right? If you're driving, do not do this. If you want to experience it, right, and you're driving or operating some kind of equipment, pull over to the side of the road, put the car in park, put the emergency brake on, turn the engine off. Make sure you're safe to do this exercise, right? Otherwise, wait for the replay and do it then. I want everybody to stand up, okay? I want you to close your eyes. And I want you, remember, there's two ways you control there's three basic ways that you control your state: your posture and your breathing, or your imagination. We don't have time to do all that stuff. We devote almost an entire day just to that in Killer Influence. So you become a master of emotional state. But I'm going to give you one of the exercises that you can just do it in a couple of minutes and be ready to take on the world. Is that fair? Is that cool? Yes? Type it in chat. All right. Very good. All right. So stand up, close your eyes. And I want you to think back to a time in your life when you were having the most fun ever. And it was a special kind of fun where you were relaxed, you were happy. You didn't really care what was going on or how things would turn out. You were just completely in that moment, completely relaxed and just playful and having the best time ever. I want you to just remember what that was like. As you close your eyes, I want you to imagine and remember what you were seeing in that moment. What were you hearing? What were you smelling? What were you tasting? How were you standing if you were standing in that moment? How were you breathing in that moment of fun and playfulness? Allow what you were seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and the stance and the breathing that you were doing, allow all those things to come back. And stand the way you were standing, breathe the way you were breathing. And as you do that, when you're in that place of absolute fun, playfulness, being relaxed and let go, when you see what you see, and you hear what you hear, and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there is an amazing, wonderful feeling that you get, a feeling of absolute relaxation, playfulness, calm. Let's see what happens. And I'd like you to notice that there's a place in your body where those amazing feelings start, where they grow, where they spread from. Take a moment, point to where you feel that. As you point to where you feel that, look at it with your inner eyes and notice there's a color, maybe even a series of colors connected to those amazing feelings. What color or colors might that be for you, first impression? Whatever it is, just go ahead. Say it out loud. Now imagine a brilliant ball of that energy floating above your head. Notice how the feelings in your body shift and changes with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. That ball of playful, let's see what happens, energy begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of playfulness, of fun, of relaxation. A cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating you, protecting you from all bummers, all downers, all seriousness, all tension, real or imagined, while at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything it most wants, everything it most needs in an infinite, ever-expanding and unlimited supply. And when you know you've got that, breathe those amazing colors through your entire being. Let it fill you up like water fills up a bottle, like fluid fills up a test tube, like hot air or helium fills up a balloon. Anchor it in so fully, so completely, no force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. And when you realize it's true, it's locked in, test it. Try to turn it off, try to take it away. And when you're ready, notice what happens instead. And when you're satisfied, It's only going to get stronger. It's not going away. Allow your eyes to open. Type what you experienced in the chat. Go ahead and do that now. Elsie says, I feel high. Relax, joy and freedom, color soaked into my body, feel strong, invincible, satisfied, euphoria. Boom. Now think about something. How do you think your interactions with people would go if you walked up to them feeling like this? What do you think what would your relationships be like? How would you relate to people differently? Type it in the chat. Agnes is saying, blissed out. I'm a super Saiyan now. Balanced, Ecole says. Excellent, wonderful. This is the beginning. This is the beginning. Let me give you a very Reiki feeling. Very good, Brian. Very good, or for a lot of reasons, which I can't talk about in this webinar. But here's what I teach my closed door students. Remember this. All the decisions people make, White Lightning says, I felt very warm. The decisions people make are all based on the emotional state that they're in. If you want to change someone's decisions and someone's behavior, you got to change their emotional state. The fastest way, listen carefully now, here's the secret. The fastest way to change another human being's emotional state is to change yours first. That's why I taught you this drill. The fastest, most powerful way to change another human being's state is to change yours first. Does that make sense? Type it in the chat. Let me ask you a question. Is this useful? Yes or yes? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Am I keeping my promise? Am I teaching you experientially how this works? Because the only things you need to understand are the things I'm teaching you on this webinar. If there was a scale, if there was an instant influence crash course, this would be it. This is where it starts. When you can become a master of emotional state control, you can walk into any situation or circumstance and take over, overtly or covertly. This is a big deal. Okay? It's just the beginning, but it's a step most people never get to learn, much less master. I'll show you how to master it in upcoming events and trainings and stuff like that. Okay, so what I want to teach you next is what we call emotional motivation or emotional bonding. Okay, would that be okay? Can we do that? Okay, so here's how this is going to play out, because I want to keep to my schedule. I'm going to skip one of the techniques I would normally teach, called the echo technique. We're going to come back in part 3 of the webinar. I'm going to go through the building blocks of the echo technique, link it to what we're about to do in the context of influencing other people, right? And then I'm going to take whatever you guys want to focus on. He's like Tony Stark. My wife actually used to compare me to Tony Stark a lot. That's kind of funny. I'll take it, by the way. All right. In part 3 of the webinar, we'll take everything we're laying the foundations for here and allowing you to experience, and we'll show you how to flesh it out, how to make it even more and more unstoppable, more and more universal into any situation or circumstance. Is that fair? If you think that's fair, type it in the chat. Okay, cool. All right, so I've got about 10-ish minutes to go through this. So we're going to work fast, but I want you to work thoroughly. I want you to get right now, I want you to get out a piece of paper and a pen. And I want you to stop, and on the top of that page, I want you to write this question. What do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? What do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Let me say it one more time. What do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Directly below that question, the first thing that pops into your head, I want you to write the answer to that. When you've done that part, type done in the chat. So once again, what do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Write it down, type done when you've done that. Okay, underneath the answer to that question, I want you to write this question down next. What's that going to do for me specifically? Specifically, what is that going to do for me? Once again, specifically, what is that going to do for me? Maggie says, yummy, it'd be on and everything. Good. All right. When you've done that, type done. Good. Now write the answer to that question. What's the first thing that pops up into your head? Under the answer to that question, if you guys want, I'll include like a brief template in the emails and the program and stuff. You'll learn it in depth in the program we've got for you. But if you want the actual template for this, I can find a way to make that available for you. But I'm going to walk you through it verbally right now to save time and to avoid confusion. So to reiterate where we're at right now, you should have, what do I want to work? What do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? What's the answer? What's important about that? I'm sorry, what's that going to do for me? So again, what do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Answer the question. What's that going to do for me? Answer the question. Under the answer to that question, write this down. What's important about that? In other words, what's important about the answer to the question above you? Go with your first impression, use the exact word. This is important. Use the exact words that pop into your head. Notice where you feel it, but write the exact words down. You got to write the exact words down. Trust me, this is a big deal. Okay, so let's review. Here's what you should have. What do I want to learn as a byproduct, or what do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Answer the question. What's that going to do for me specifically? Answer the question. What's important about that? Answer the question. If you've done that exactly, write done in the chat. Cool. All right. Underneath the question you just answered, the what's important about question, you're going to write the same question. What's important about that? So look directly above to the question above, look at the answer and answer the question. If you got that, if you're able to do that, what's important to you about that? What's that going to do for you? Write the answer to that question directly below. Okay. When you've completed that, just type C. Excellent. You guys are fast. Good. Perfect. Last time, with feeling, under that question that you just answered, I want you to write a variant of that question. Ultimately, if I got the first question and the second question, in other words, if I got the things above, ultimately, what's important about that? That's the actual question. But I want you to reference the answers to the other two what's important about questions. If you got the first what's important about, and then you got the second one, ultimately, what would that do for you? What's important to you about that? So you should have a list of things. Now, if you're doing this properly, you may start to notice something, that your answers to these questions get progressively more emotional. True, not true? Type true, and if it's true, type, yeah. Perfect. This is the secret. If your subjects, when we get to part 3 of the webinar, we'll talk about this more. If your subjects are not feeling emotions, you're missing something. Okay? This is a big, big deal. I have story after story after story, but let's review. What do I want to be able to do as a byproduct of this webinar training? Answer. What's that going to do for me? Answer. What's important about that? A, answer. What's important about that? B, answer. What's important, ultimately, what's important about that? C, answer. You should have a list. Yes? Yes, yes? Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. Let me get a piece of paper so I can model this for you. What we're going to do next now is I want you to stand up. And as we stand up, I want you to look at your answers. I want you to silently read them in your mind from the very beginning to the end. Okay? And as you think about the most important things, I want you to do this. I want you to read the answers to the what's important about questions. So hold it up. I want you to read the answers to the what's important about questions. 5, let's do 7. Do it 7 times out loud. Now, before you do it, scan your body, notice how you feel. Scan your body, become aware of where you're at state-wise, and then read the answers to the what's important about questions 7 times out loud and tell me what happens. Tell me what changes in your body and what you feel. It's okay. Keep going. You got this. Getting done. It's all right. Keep going. Just do the exercise. And when you're done, then you can start typing. Okay. It's really important to do this. I want you to feel this. Remember, you're only reading the answer to the 3 what's important about questions. Okay. Interesting answer, Purge. We're going to deal with that. Maybe towards the end of the webinar, we'll talk. We'll try to unpack that. Okay. Gary says relax. Lucky says lighter. Softness in the heart, Raj says. So I'm curious, scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, how strong are the feelings in your body right now? Ten, Eileen says. 10, very. Would you like to get these things? Would you like the ability to get these things? Yes or yes? Okay. Would you like me to show you how to get these things? Before I show you how to get these things, I want to ask you another question. What if you could make everyone you know or interact with feel things as intensely or even stronger as you're feeling them now? What do you think would happen? We would bond. Great. Exploding stars, Quentin says. That's exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do in part 3. But for now, with your permission, I'd like to show you how to take this even further. I'd like you to share with you the system that these little pieces come from and how to get the whole thing and a whole lot more. So when you're ready, I want you to go ahead. And with your permission, I want to talk to you about the Secrets of Human Influence Ultra Persuasion Mastery Home Study course. This is the most powerful influence and persuasion tool on the planet. And let me add a couple other descriptors that I think are really, really important. It is also, beyond a shadow of a doubt, without peer, in that it is simple, easy, effective, and fast. You don't need 12 months of intense weekly drilling to be amazing at this. You can do some of this stuff in as little as an hour. Okay, think about what we've done together in an hour. Okay, and what you can now do with it. So this is something I want you to understand. If you want the fastest, easiest to apply, most comprehensive system of influence on the planet, no bullshit, this is it. Okay, the Secrets of Human Influence is all about helping you take your life to the next level. And that might mean in your world, making more money or closing more deals. It might be about getting more dates, right? It might be just about being able to reach and help more people. Some of you, all you want to do is feel confident or just feel more powerful, like you actually have control of your life and win the game of life, right? Some of you, it's about being charming and charismatic and irresistible, or any of the other things on the list that we talked about. Remember something, my friends, human influence is the one thing that is the ultimate survival skill in the persuasion and information age. Your ability to get people to want to do the things that you want them to do for their own reasons is unlimited power. And it's ethical power. It's power that you can sleep at night knowing you've used it to make everybody's life better, starting with your own. So here's what I put together for you. Now, this offer is only good until August 10th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Now, remember, I want you to stay till the end of the webinar, because this is part 2. We have a third part of this webinar. And part 3 is where we're going to take the foundations that we've laid in part 1, and we're going to build on them. We're going to show you how to layer this stuff even more powerfully and easily. Okay, you'll be amazed. You don't got to believe it, just do it. So stick with us till the end. But this is what you're going to get in this is where we're going to start with the Secrets of Human Influence Persuasion Home Study course. It's a 17 video set that will teach you the 7-stage universal persuasion protocol. That little target diagram I showed you will take you step by step by step through each of those layers so that you can master them completely, so that you can use them anytime, anywhere, in any situation or circumstance. We're going to teach you how to think like a master influencer. Professional persuaders think differently than the average human. Okay, they have to be able to get their outcomes. I'm going to show you what that mindset looks like, how to adopt it for yourself and install it. It's a $297 value, but really it should be a $20,970 value, because that's how important the right mindset is. I talked about this in my 2-hour coaching class last night. I talked about the will to influence as being one of the most important cognitive factors. It's not about how many techniques you know, because if you're not willing to use any of them, you might as well not know them, right? So there's a whole mindset that goes into this, and you can still be the good guy. That's the best part, right? You can get everything you want and be the hero. I love that about this system. I'm going to teach you how to control your psycho-emotional state so no one else can do it for you. I'm going to teach you how to leverage the emotional states that you've created so that nobody can push your buttons ever again. Nobody will be able to knock you off your game without you being able to get instantly back on that horse and being able to adapt to any situation. No one will be able to push your buttons ever again. If somebody does manage to knock you off your game, you're going to have the amazing ability to snap right back, but it's going to get even better. I'm going to teach you how to leverage that state control, the mirror neurons and the proprioceptive nervous systems of your body, the heart energy field, put those all together and create powerful Bluetooth-like connections with the nervous systems of other people so powerfully and so strongly you can literally make their body sway back and forth or transmit emotions back and forth. We call these power rapport skills for connecting with anyone, anywhere. Okay, not just with frequency, but with amplitude, to generate so much force in your own body state that it blows through the resistance and the static of other people's emotions and thought processes. That's a $297 value, but you can imagine what you can do that. You felt what one technique can do. Imagine an entire day of material devoted to making you better and better and better at that. Right? I'm going to teach you the most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist. Hypnotic language patterns that are so powerful, they can even affect people who have brain damage. Okay, we have actual clinical cases where people who are not lucid and who are suffering from strokes, one of our guys started talking to the lady in hypnotic language, she started responding, right? Because it activates the brain in a different way. Stop for a moment and think about if you had a set of superpowers. Let me describe these superpowers for you. What if you had the ability to make anything you want seem to cause anything you want in the minds of your listener? In other words, you could take something that was completely random and through one simple language pattern, make it cause a specific effect in the minds of your listener. What could you do with that? Right? That's one pattern that you're going to learn. Now, let me ask you this. What could you do if you had the magic power, the superpower, to make anything you want mean anything you want in the minds of your listener? I'm going to teach you how to do that. One simple language pattern lets you do that anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, even if the two things that you're linking together have nothing in common and one is even randomly generated. Okay, that's superpower number 2. What if you had the ability to magically direct a person's focus of attention and tell their unconscious mind to instantly and automatically do whatever process you want them to do? What if not only would they actually ignore everything else other than what you told them to pay attention to? What could you do with a process like that? That's superpower number 3. Better yet, what if that ability was so strong, so powerful that even people who are trained in linguistics, conversational hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming couldn't resist it either? What could you do with a superpower like that? That's pattern number 3. Okay? There's 7. I'm only going to talk about the first 4. All right? What if you had the ability to literally make a person's internal mental movies be exactly what you described, the way you describe it, with 0 chance of resistance or being wrong? Think about that for a moment. If you've ever done any kind of like conversational hypnosis and you describe something to someone and at some point they say, no, that's not how it happened for me. That didn't work for me. What if you could bypass and remove that completely? There's one simple language pattern that if you understand it properly, you can literally take over a person's internal mind movies and make them be exactly what you want, the way you want it, with 0 chance of failure. Like I told you, I don't have time for low percentage technique. I want fast, effective, consistent results that work anytime, anywhere, under any situation or circumstance. I didn't develop this system for you. I did it for me because patience is my superpower. So if any of this sounds like something you'd like for yourself, it's right in front of you. It's a $297 value, but I think it's a little understated, right? Craig says, if you haven't used the language patterns he's talking about that are completely stealth and hit like Thor's hammer. All right. Thank you, Craig. All right. So there's 7 language patterns that I'm going to teach you before we get even more unstoppable. But think about what you can do with those 4, right? Now, what if you could reach into a person's heart and mind and manage their emotional states? In other words, take them wherever they're at, decide where you want them to go, and through just your language, your own state control, your own emotional bonding, just move them in the direction you want and have them think it's their own idea. I'm going to show you how to do that. What if you could hijack someone's internal behavior code? In other words, every human being has a pattern and a process and a structure to the decisions they make and the behaviors they create. What if you had the eyes to see and the ears to hear the exact things they're doing to generate a feeling, a decision, or a behavior, and you could match it perfectly without having to think about it? Like, you don't have to, like, if you were to learn this in NLP, it'd take you an hour and you would have to blow through a report. What if you could do it instantly? In fact, what if you were doing it the entire time you were talking to them, but it was so built into your process that you didn't have to think about it? It would just jump out and automatically engage. I'm going to show you how to do that. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do part of that in part 3 of this webinar. If you want the rest, grab the package, right? What if you could emotionally bond your product, your service, you, to the things that your subject most deeply emotionally wants in such a way that doing what they want gets you what you want? Okay. I gave you the experience of a part of that right before I launched into this. I'm going to show you how to take it even further. Okay. What if I included with this package a 240-page manual? I think it's 240 pages, it might be a little less, that has chapters on how to use the spatial relationships between you and another person to create connection, authority, compliance, suggestibility. What if it had chapters on how to use a person's own internal filters of reality so that you could perfectly match how they see the world and your content to it, so they understand you deeper than they've ever been felt that understand anyone before? What if you had the ability to profile people, read their face, read their clothing, so you would know exactly what to say and how to say it? Betty says it sounds too good to be true. Welcome to Killer Influence, the #1 NLP training course of 2020 and 2022. That's what this is. This is where we're starting, Betty. Okay. There's a whole lot more. There's even a section in this manual. This is the Killer Influence Mind Control Manual, called Dirty Rotten Tricks. These are kind of gray hat area things that you could use in special circumstances, or more importantly, other people might try to pull on you that you can turn the tables on them, right? Okay. Plus, what if you had access to a group of people who are as passionate and fanatical about learning and developing these skills as you are? I'm going to show you how to do that. If you answered yes to any two of the things I talked about, this is what the total value on this package right now is $2,497. But as you can probably guess, there's more. If you're brave enough, if you understand the power of what I've just talked to you about and given you experiences of, if you're ready to take your life to the next level, I mean, seriously, take your life to the next level, I want to give you some other things as a way to say thank you for taking action and stepping up. I'm going to include these special extra bonuses. The first one is called Weapons of Mass Instruction. One of the most powerful and compelling persuasion tools on the planet is the ability to tell stories. My biggest frustration when I was studying NLP and conversational hypnosis was every storytelling class I went to tried to teach me confusing, weird metaphors or the hero's journey. It's super complicated everything and didn't really teach me the nuts and bolts, do this, then do this, then do this stuff that I needed to know. So I realized after buying 5 or 6 courses on different forms of storywork, some by some of the best NLP trainers in the world, I realized something, that if I wanted a course that would teach Homer Simpson how to be the world's best storyteller and get their outcome over and over and over again, right, I was going to have to create it. And so I did. I went to the neuroscience, I went to the social psychology resources, all having to do with storytelling and narrative. Okay. And I looked at the neuroscience and I found guys like Dr. Eric Knowles, who wrote an entire book called Persuasion and Resistance. And I broke all the information that I came across that worked into 5 basic chapters. The first one is the neuroscience of narrative and storytelling. This is going to teach you why stories are the most irresistible form of influence in the world, even when the person you're telling the story to knows you're using it to influence them, right? How the neurology of a person actually couples up with you, the storytellers, and then begins to synchronize and entrain to the point where you guys are literally thinking the same thoughts and they're anticipating every word that comes out of your mouth. How it creates persuasion in the background. How even if people have values that are dramatically opposed or different from what you're presenting, the way you tell the story can actually soften their attitudes and create vicarious experiences in their life that melt their resistance. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is all about alpha stories. If you need to persuade, like for sales or motivation or leadership, right? If you want to inspire people, these are the stories that most people learn when they go to leadership camps or sales seminars or whatever. We call these alpha stories. Alpha stories are stories that amplify persuasion push. Let me jump out of my PowerPoint just to understand where we're going with this and why it's important for you. So alpha stories, we're going to talk about two chapters, alpha stories and omega stories. Okay. Alpha stories, if I have a filing cabinet, for example, and I need to move this heavy filing cabinet, right? But I can't move it by myself. I go and I ask my friend Richard and my friend Savo to help me push this. That's an alpha story. That's adding more persuasion push to the process. But there's another kind of story that almost nobody knows about, and they're called omega stories. Omega stories work differently than alpha stories because they eliminate resistance to influence. They eliminate a person's desire to resist or react to you. Okay, so it would be the equivalent if I have this big heavy filing cabinet, but I only have myself. I go find some rollers, or I get some oil or grease, and I throw it on the floor in front of the object. And now I can move that by myself because I've done what? I've removed the resistance and the friction to my influence. There's a whole chapter on that. One of the most powerful ways that people use stories is to connect with other people. So if you're someone who hates small talk, you're someone who wants to be able to strike up conversations anytime, anywhere, there's a whole chapter on connection stories, little swipe files that you can create. So you can have a little tiny vignette or story ready to go anytime that helps you bond with people instantly. That's chapter number 3. And then finally, or number 4. And then finally, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful but ninja aspects of the storytelling sequence. We call those ninja stories. If you've ever seen people like Tony Robbins or Robert Allen or Lisa Sasevich or T. Harv Eker talk to a group of people, or Joe Dispenza, right? And at the end of the training, everyone gets up and rushes to the back of the room to buy stuff. Let me tell you a secret. They actually teach people how to be trainers, but they don't teach them what they're actually doing. I have this from firsthand experience, as well as other people who've talked to their trainers. They don't teach them the secrets embedded within, right? There's a whole chapter developed for you to learn and practice called ninja stories. One of the things that makes stories so amazingly powerful and irresistible is that not only can they influence vast groups of people regardless of language barrier, they can also serve as a delivery mechanism for other influence tools and tactics and techniques. And that's what the high-level AAA rated public speakers and motivational therapists and things of that nature, that's what they're doing. That's the system behind the system, okay? We literally deconstruct the talks of high-level speakers so you can see all the things that they're doing, but they're not telling you they're doing, okay? Again, this is one of the most, I won't lie to you, this is the deep end of the pool. But if you are somebody who makes their living through presenting and public speaking, if you want to lead and inspire people, if you want to be able to covertly influence people to make their lives better, you need to understand this is one of the most powerful aspects of storytelling and metaphor. This is what most people go to NLP to learn, but they get so overwhelmed with everything that they can't actually do it. So if you think of this last ninja model or ninja module, think of it like, you guys remember the movie, the original movie, The Terminator, and how they sent the Terminator back through time, but they couldn't send it back as it was. They had to wrap it in living tissue so it would pass through, because nothing inorganic would pass through that membrane. Stories work just like that. Stories allow you to insert and install other persuasion tools and techniques. About 11 to 14, I think, is how many there are that you could use, right? Do you need to use them? No. But if you want to use them and you want to know how to use them, then strategic storytelling and metaphor is the easiest, fastest, most effective way to be able to leverage that level of storytelling and power. Okay, so I wanted to jump out of the PowerPoint just for a moment to let you know what it is you're actually getting. It's the fastest, easiest, most effective way to be able to be a story master. Okay, and you'll have me in your corner the entire time you're training to make sure your questions get answered. Okay, so let me jump back to the PowerPoint and This particular bonus is free to you. It's worth $1,997 value, but we're going to give it to you free. Total combined value, if you add that to the Secrets of Human Influence Persuasion Mastery Home Study course, $4,480, $87 if you register before the end of the webinar. What if you had the ability to change any belief, overcome any objection, or win any argument in seconds? That's what this next program is all about. We call this renegade reframing, how to literally overcome any objection during normal conversation in seconds. What if you had 14 different ways to change any belief, objection, or argument that you're faced with? And what if you could do these, and that's before you combine them? What if nobody could actually hold on to a limiting belief around you ever again? And all their resistance just melted. What could you do with a power like that? That's what these 14 patterns will actually allow you to do when you master this process. I guess people are asking for the links, so let's go ahead and post the links. In this course, I actually teach you step by step how to conversationally overcome any objection or circumstance using 14 of the most powerful language patterns that were discovered. Now, what's interesting about these patterns is back in the day when Richard Bandler was teaching people to be NLP practitioners, at some point in their training, I'm not sure if it was practitioner level or master prac, he would get up on stage and he would say, okay, I have this limiting belief. I need you to change it. And he would challenge it. He would goad his students to try and overcome his limiting belief or his mindset or his paradigm. And he would trounce them every time. And one of his students, a guy by the name of Robert Dilts, who was one of the unadulterated geniuses of the NLP world, said, wait a minute, what is Richard doing to just take these newly minted practitioners and master practitioners and just decimate their newly found skills? And he discovered that there were about 14 basic patterns, thought patterns or perspectives that Richard could adopt at any given moment that would give them him the ability to just overwrite and change a person's thinking process. And he would use these patterns over and over and over again to just stop people dead in their tracks. Robert Dilts, okay? He originally called these patterns sleight of mouth. And I have to tell you, aside from the core killer influence course, as much as I love the storytelling course, this is one of my all-time favorite tools to use. But you only need to use it if you screwed up the universal persuasion protocol. That's kind of the suck part about it, is if you do the universal persuasion protocol and the emotional bonding checklist properly, which we taught you, you don't need to use this. But one of the best things about this is if you have limiting beliefs, if you have thought processes that hold you back, if you find yourself making excuses for stuff, not doing it, you can use these patterns on yourself to change your brain, to literally, in a positive way, brainwash yourself to be more powerful, more wealthy, more successful, to overcome procrastination, to feel more confident, to feel more deserving of things. In fact, when you use these on yourself, it's impossible to go back to the old way of thinking. And you can do the exact same thing on any subject you desire, with any person you desire. So if the idea of being able to overcome any argument, change any limiting belief, overcome any objection that you're faced with, and set people free appeals to you, this is one of the most powerful tools you can add to your killer influence repertoire. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free because, like I said, I want you to be the best. I want you to have every tool and opportunity to get the life you want the way that you want it. Total combined value of all this is $6,484. Okay. If you register before the end of the webinar. Okay. And finally, I mentioned guys like T. Harv Eker and Robert Allen and Lisa Sasevich and Tony Robbins. And we've talked about how at the end of their trainings, they make an offer and there's a veritable stampede to the back of the room. Just for my edification, how many people on the call today or on the webinar today are some form of presenter or therapist, coach, salesperson, manager? Just type me in the chat, right? Just type me in the chat so I know. Okay. All right. So how many people have aspirations of writing a book or building a business that involves presenting to large groups of people. Okay. If you intend on making your living as a coach, a trainer, a mentor, guide, a therapist, one of the most powerful ways to build your business is through public speaking. It's the most cost-effective, it's the most useful, and you can leverage all the content you create everywhere. Okay? So here's my point. This is the skill set you need next. Once you've got the universal persuasion protocol, the 7 most powerful language patterns that exist, you know how to tell effective stories. Now you want to know how to put it all together to be an unstoppable force from the stage so that the people rush to the back of the room and sign up to take the next step with you. That's what charisma and conversion is all about. And it's not only talks about it's going to teach you 2 forms of persuasion architecture. In other words, how do you design a talk that structurally programs people to want to take the next step with you? What do you build in? How do you tell effective stories? How do you give examples? How do you create partnership from the start? How do you communicate with complete authenticity and leverage and combine all that into an irresistibly emotionally compelling narrative or experience for them that has them wanting to spend more and more time in your world in an ethical win-win way? That's what charisma and conversion is all about. If you've ever found yourself rushing to the back of the room at somebody else's presentation to buy something you don't need, you need this course. Why? Because you'll see all the hidden triggers, all the steps people are taking, all the different types of influence tools that are being used to leverage you to take the next step with them. Right? And Frankie says, it's working on me and I'm completely fine about it. It works. Yes. That's my point. The challenge with this material is that it is so damn powerful. And again, I'm not a persuasion comp, but I can tell you from true real world experience, guys, that there's a lot of people out there using this shit on you in a bad way. They're using it to just sell you the Golden Gate Bridge. They're selling you waterfront property in Arizona, right? But if you have these tools and a strong sense of personal ethics, you can win at presenting. You can win in front of any audience. You can be true to your own sense of personal ethics, and you can protect yourself against the people who might use these things on you in a less than ethical way. And I mean that sincerely. I said it before, I'll say it again. There are lots of well-trained, highly funded 3-letter agencies out there with a vested interest in doing these things to you. So if you want to stop being the victim, for lack of a better word, this is where you want to go next. Now, I'm going to give this to you free. It's a $1,997 value. And I'm going to give it to you absolutely free because I know a lot of you are coaches. A lot of you are consultants. And again, if you are social media influencers, if you want to leverage your ability to convert the most amount of people to your funnel, to your planet, as we call it Planet David, this is the way. This is your next step. Okay? It's no BS. This is the shit that works. And there's stuff in here I haven't even told you about yet. Right? Because I can't, I'd be here all day. There's a lot in here, but it presupposes you have the Killer Influence System, the Universal Persuasion Protocol. Do you need any other courses like the Renegade Reframing or the Strategic Storytelling? No, but they're great because it reinforces everything that we teach in those courses. All right? If you're ready to commit, just go to http://www.killerinfluence.com/go. www.killerinfluence.com/go. If you do the math, total combined value of $8,481. If you were to if you could buy all of these things on the website, and I'm not even sure if they're there right now. Oh, Betty says already did. Betty's with us. Betty has joined Planet David. Yay, Betty. All right. So let's review what we've got for you guys. The Secrets of Human Influence Ultra Persuasion Home Study Course. 17 videos that teach you the 7-stage Universal Persuasion Protocol, plus the Killer Influence Mind Control Mastery Manual to $2,497 value. We're going to give you absolutely free the Weapons of Mass Instruction Neuroscientific Storytelling Secrets. One of the best things also about story is you can use it to accelerate people's learning, right? You don't just need to use it to make sales. You can use it to get people to learn that better and have a better experience in your presentation. So I really, really recommend you grab this course. Renegade Reframing, the Art of Conversational Belief Change, how to overcome or change any belief during normal conversation in seconds, recorded live. So both of these are $1,997 values. We're giving them to you absolutely free. Finally, as part of this Ultra Persuasion package, we're going to give you the next step. That's charisma and conversion, hypnotic presentation skills for presenters and public speakers. These are the exact steps and methodologies that I use to get people excited, to rush to the back of the room, to feel like they've truly gotten more value than they've invested, and feel absolutely wonderful about everything, all without having to lie, cheat, or steal. This is the same thing I teach my students. 2 years ago, I taught a class of 80 people at HypnoThoughts, hypnotists, neurolinguistic programmers, financial services experts, peak performance experts, how to do all this. I can do the same for you, and I want to. It's a $1,997 value. Total value, if we did all the math, is $8,481. If you could buy each of these individually on the website, that's how much it would cost you. But some of these you can't get because they're not on the website. They're only available through this webinar training. Okay. Now, inevitably, people are going to start to ask questions. And here's some of the questions that we're going to get. Well, okay, David, what's the catch? There isn't one. But today, because I love you, and I know that sounds really quirky. It sounds corny to me. I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to have every opportunity, every single tool that will change your life. Why is that? Because the more money I help you make, the more trainings you'll come to. It's completely win-win. It's completely selfish on my part. I want you to be successful. Because of that, because I know the times that we live in, I know that the onus is on me to deliver. I want to remove all possible risk, all possible hesitations. I want to make this easy for you. So here's the deal. For today only, you're not going to have to pay $8,481. We're not even going to charge you $6,481. We're not going to charge you $5,300, $3,300. Heck, guys, we're not even going to charge you $2,347. That's $100 less than the asking price of just Killer Influence. We're not going to ask you for that. For those of you who are really serious, who have answered yes to any two or more of the questions or the conditions, the qualifiers that I've thrown out to you, you can get it all for one low time investment of only $997. That's it, $997. And if you need a little extra help, reach out to us. We can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $397 each. And all you got to do to get yours is go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. www.killerinfluence.com/GO. Go. Okay. So go ahead and click that link now. If you know you want this, if you've answered yes to even 2 or 3 of the things I've talked about, grab this now. And there's a couple of reasons why you want to do this now, which I'm about to talk to you about. But before I do, www.killerinfluence.com/go. Hold on a second. Let me put this in the YouTube chat. Hold on a second. There we go. So for those of you in YouTube land, there's your link. Go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. Click that link right now because I've got some other goodies for you. But before I talk about that, I want to talk to you about something else. You know, a couple of people have said to me, or have posted in the chat, David, this is too good to be true. I wish that were true, but it's not. I've actually undersold. I've under described everything that's in those programs I'm giving you. I've literally minimum, like people who have this program, people who've been in these programs, have I or have I not actually not described half of what's in those programs that you're getting, right? But think about what you're going to be able to do with just the things I talked about. But even then, some of you are still going to have some doubts. You're going to say, well, wait a minute, what if this doesn't work? Okay, fair enough. I want to eliminate all the risk. It's all on me to deliver. If it doesn't deliver, this costs you nothing. Take this program now. Apply the tools and the techniques. If you have questions, give us a call or send us an email. Let us help you through the sticking points. Work the system, play with the system, practice the system for a full 60 days. If after 60 days, you're not on the fast track to making more money, closing more deals, reaching your goals of financial freedom, romantic freedom, familial freedom, or abundance, right? If you're not on your way to feeling more confident and secure, if you're not hearing yeses, at least 30 or more % in your life, if you're not winning the social encounters or finding yourself on your way to becoming completely empowered and irresistible, if you're not satisfied for any reason, pick up the phone, send us an email, and we will, in fact, refund your money. Because if it's not working for you guys, if it's not giving you the results that I know it can, I don't want your funds. I don't want your investment. I'm going to give it back to you because I want you to find something that works. But I know in my heart what this has done for every student that I've worked with. You'll be thanking me up one side and down the other. And I'm not trying to say that from a place of arrogance. I'm saying it because I've seen what happens when you apply these tools to your life, even a little bit. And the more you do it, the more you have fun with it, and the more playful you become with it, the easier it's going to get. And the more things you'll want to add. And you'll become powerful and unstoppable. And I'm going to give you 60 days to play with it. You have absolutely nothing to risk here. If it's not working, pick up the phone. We'll refund your money. And in many cases, we'll even let you keep the programs. Okay? Now, please don't be a douche and be one of those people who buys and then refunds, right? Because you can't. We're big on satisfaction. We're big on customer service. My administrative goddess, Stephanie, is the absolute best person to deal with. And if we can't help you, we'll refund you. But I know you're going to be amazing at what you're going to be able to do and how quickly you're going to be able to do it. So for those of you who really want to get this, go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. You have absolutely everything to gain, nothing to risk. It's all upside from here on forward. But you got to pull the trigger. You got to say, hey, I deserve this. I want this. I'm going to make this happen. Right? And if you have any doubts or you're wondering what you're going to get, look at that list of things you wrote down right in front of you. There's your why. Click that link. Go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. 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 Okay. Next, if what I have told you so far isn't compelling enough, if it wasn't good enough, then what I'm going to tell you about next is really going to blow your doors away. There are many people in this world who are followers. There are people who say, I don't want to be the first one to do this. I don't want to be the first person in anything. I'll be the second or the third person. And that's cool. But here's something I want you to understand. This is a behavioral influence principle that I want to share with you. I teach it to all my students, and I consider you my student. So take this for what it's worth. The behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated. The behavior that gets repeated gets reinforced. So I want you to be an action taker. I want you to say, this is what I want, and I know this is going to help me get it. I'm going to do that, and I want to reward you for that. So what I'm about to share with you is only good until I log off the webinar tonight. Now, everything I've talked about up to this point is available until 11:59 p.m. tonight, August 10th, 2023. The bonuses and the free gifts I'm about to share with you, when I log off the webinar, they go away. Okay, Julian's asking me a great question. Can I buy this course tomorrow and get all the add-ons still? No. Let me explain that. What I'm about to share with you are called fast action bonuses, right? Now, I will give you the one caveat. If you call Stephanie, if you call Stephanie and you leave a message, then you will qualify for whatever fast action bonuses I'm about to talk about. But remember, if you call her, call because you want to order, right? If you have a question, she'll happy to answer them. But what happens a lot of times is, we get a rush of people to the customer service line, and the people who actually want to get their program wind up missing out. So what I want you to do is I want you to call right now if you have questions. If you get the voicemail, the number is 858-282-4663. If you call, leave your name, telephone number, and the best time to call. And then when she calls you tomorrow, you will qualify for all the bonuses I'm talking about. However, if you call and you don't leave contact information and you try to call back the following day, you won't get the bonuses, right? That's as fair as I can make it, because there are people here who I know are already stampeding. I can tell by the numbers. There's already stampeding to buy this course. So let me show you what I got for you when you're ready to finally become an action taker in your life. Okay. Remember, I said one of the things that stops people is the willingness to influence. You've got to take action if you want to be powerful with this. These skills are powerful, but only if you actually use them. So the first thing I'm going to give you is a 3-month trial membership to our NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group. This is a group that's been running nonstop for 11 years. Let me jump off my PowerPoint to talk about this because I'm really proud of this. And by the way, for those of you who've been around that long, effective September, if not sooner, we're actually going back to hybrid events. We're actually going to start doing the live trainings again. So one of the things you can expect, is that the prices are going to go up for the mastermind. If you're a member, you might want to, and you're local, you'll actually be able to come and train with me live and in person on the 3rd Saturday of every month. If you're virtual, you'll still be able to log in. But new people signing up for the mastermind, they're gonna have to pay a whole lot more. Okay, so I'm letting that out of the bag first, even though it's something I've been working on. So here's how it works. Since on the 3rd Saturday of every month, since October 2010, I have been running a practice group where people come from all over the world, all over Southern California. Sometimes they come in from Arizona, sometimes they come in from New Mexico, sometimes from NorCal. And I literally go around the room and I say, Seth, what do you want to learn? Jason, what do you want to learn? Jeff, what do you want to learn? Javier, what do you want to learn? Stephanie, what do you want to learn? Susan, what do you want to learn? Holly, what do you want to learn? And they all tell me what they want to learn, and I write it on the board. And I look at what they've written, and I find where they all kind of meet and intersect. And for the next 4 hours, I drill them on those specific skills until they can do it in their sleep. This is not a program that's going to give you a certificate. It's going to give you the one thing that takes you from a tire kicker and a spectator to getting in the game, and that's hands-on training. You get feedback from me. I custom design drills for you, right? And we drill you on anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on what we're doing. I think the next mastermind we've got coming up is going to be an 8-hour mastermind. So imagine spending 8 hours training with me, either virtually or live and in person, for free. All you got to do is grab your package now, and we're going to give you 3 months access to the NLP Power Mentoring Program, where you get to work with me, live and in person or virtually, for free, right? Not only that, we've videotaped every single session we've done since October of 2010. You, as an active member of the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, will have 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week access for the full 90 days that you're in the program. And you'll see stuff that's never seen the light of day on YouTube, things I only teach behind closed doors, everything from NLP to regression to therapy to dating to attraction to manifestation to psychic skills development, energy healing. If we teach it, face reading, behavioral stuff, if you've liked any of the stuff that you've seen on our YouTube channel or the things I've learned, you've taught in the life, this is your chance to level up. Why? Because the thing that takes you from interesting information to unstoppable transformation and persuasion is the willingness to roll up your sleeves, do the drills, and get the skills. So I'm giving you that chance, right? All you got to do is grab your package. It's a $1,597 value that's going to go up very, very shortly. But you also get that 11, 12-year archive that you can binge watch to your heart's content, right? And if at the end of 90 days, you had a nice ride, but you're done, then cool. If you like what you've been doing, you're getting results from it, let us know and we'll show you how to extend your membership. Okay. But I wanted to jump off the PowerPoint just to for you to understand, this is the longest running skill building NLP practice program, hypnosis program that exists. Okay. And we've been helping people who have no interest in certificates whatsoever gain world-class skills just for making their life better. So that's what that's about. Okay, let's go back. I know this is a lot, but again, I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to help you guys take it to the next level. So this is a $1,597 value. We're going to give this to you free. Total combined value so far is $10,078. We're also going to throw in the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. Now, this is a course for people who want to start now. This is like, in other words, there's like, you watch 2 videos, they're about an hour to 2 hours total, and you can start hypnotizing people using some of those powerful language patterns, instant and rapid inductions, you name it, that exist. It comes with manuals, it comes with video courses, it comes with transcripts. There's at least 5 or 7 different bonus videos, one of which includes lie detection, instant and rapid inductions, the 7 most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist, the 3 magic questions protocol, hypnotic hot buttons, I think is in there, which is all about values elicitation, but it's done in an instant fast start format so that you can get the fastest start possible and really start putting this to work immediately. It's a $997 value. We're going to give you this for absolutely free if you're one of the first 20 people to sign up today. So $11,075 combined value. And finally, for the next, 21 people that finally registered today, we're going to give you a special VIP ticket to our next Killer Influence live Secrets of Covert Hypnosis training. This is a 5-day certification boot camp. It'll be here in San Diego, January 23rd through the 27th. Please change that date. It's actually the 24th. 2024. It's a $2,250 value. And you're going to learn, again, some of the most powerful secrets to persuading people on the planet. You're going to learn how to, the 7 most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist, how to emotionally bond with your subject. You're going to learn how to use spatial hypnotic operators to rapidly influence people, where to sit and stand at conference meetings, networking functions, how to approach people, how to speed read them, how to get control of large groups of people at the same time, how to remove any resistance that you're faced with. Okay. Again, everything I talked about when I was describing the Ultra Persuasion home study course, imagine 5 days in a room with me learning all that and the stuff I haven't even talked about, the really top secret stuff that will just blow you away. Okay, this is an amazing value. This is our VIP super ticket. So let me explain some things about our VIP super ticket. First and foremost, this ticket does not expire. So, you know, the next training is in January 2024. Actually, Seth is right. That 2250 is actually a typo. It's actually, I think, 3150, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, neither here nor there. It's a lot, but this VIP ticket, you have it until you use it. So let's say that you plan on coming to Killer Influence, but at the last minute, your boss makes you work, a family member gets sick, some other unforeseen reason that you can't go comes up. All you got to do is pick up the phone, let Stephanie or I know, we'll move you to another training. Okay. If you can't, maybe initially you can't, you're busy in January that week and you can't come to the training and something happens at the last minute, but the training's sold out, it's filled up. I'm starting to use smaller venues now. to keep the training more intimate. So the odds of it filling up are actually going up quite a bit. But let's say it's full, but you have this VIP ticket and you want to come. If you have this VIP ticket, all you have to do is pick up the phone, let me, Stephanie, or whoever's working the desk know, and we will find a seat for you at this training. Okay, that's a special members only benefit for having that VIP ticket. It doesn't expire. You don't lose it till you use it. Okay. If you want to gift the training, the VIP ticket, to somebody else, you can do that. If the price goes up, and one of the things that you're seeing in this particular economy is prices keep going up, your price is guaranteed. You get to walk in. If we're charging $5,000 for this training, you get to walk in and sit at the front of the class because you have a VIP super ticket. Okay. So for those of you who want this now, click the link, go to www.killerinfluence.com/GO. It's www.killerinfluence.com/GO. Right. Now, here's the other part about this that I think is really, really cool. Let's say that you've already been to Killer Influence and you don't want to take the same training twice. As long as you've satisfied the prerequisites, you can actually trade this VIP ticket in towards any other training in our 2024-2025 calendar, provided you have the prerequisites, right? Same goes for your package. If you've been on our webinars before and you've gotten this human influence package and you don't want duplicates and you see something else you want, if you let Stephanie or I know, we will help you customize your package. We can swap out or substitute other packages for you as long as they're the same or lesser price, right? So you can customize your package for this. Okay, that's a big deal for some people because a lot of people have bought a lot of these things and they just don't want to duplicate it, but they want to take advantage of the offer. So if you have any of the products or courses that we've talked about and you want to swap it out for something else, pick up the phone, leave a message for Stephanie, and she'll get back to you. And if it's possible, we'll help you customize your package for you. So the total value of what we've discussed so far, now this ticket is actually about a $3,100 or $150 value. Total combined value on this, if you take everything, is $13,325, right? So let's just review what we've got really quickly. Secrets of Human Influence Home Study Course, $2,497 value. Weapons of Mass Instruction is a $1,997 value. Renegade Reframing, Instant Conversational Belief Change, $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. Charisma and Conversion, Hypnotic Presentation Skills for public speakers, $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, $1,597 value, 3-month trial membership plus the archive. We're going to give it to you free. The Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course is a $997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And then finally, Killer Influence VIP Super Ticket 5-day certification boot camp, January 23rd through the 27th in 2024, $2,250 value, actually more. We're going to give that to you free as well. Total package value is $13,325. You can get it all, everything, soup to nuts, hook, line, and sinker with the 60-day money-back guarantee. Just one investment of $997 or 3 easy installments of just $397 each. All you got to do is go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. That's www.killerinfluence.com/go. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a 7-minute intermission so that you guys can finalize your packages, use the restroom. When I come back from the break, we're going to begin phase 3 of tonight's webinar. In other words, we're going to circle back to the foundations. We're going to teach you step by step how to do the emotional bonding part, how to use the echo technique, and we're going to customize the rest of the webinar to exactly what you most want to take away from this webinar. Okay. But in the meantime, before I get to that, go to www.killerinfluence.com/GO. Click this link now and reserve your seat. www.killerinfluence.com/go. Reserve your seat. www.killerinfluence.com/go. Get that out of the way so that you have your brain is ready to absorb and practice and learn. And I will see you at 6:06 p.m. Pacific. Okay, folks, while we're still on break, if people are, or a lot of people are storming poor Stephanie, so that's great. Make sure you get in line because those 21 spots are going to go quick. They always do. Like I said, I've decided to, because of the hotel situations for most people, we've decided to use smaller venues. So we've actually started creating smaller classes so that we can make sure that everything's affordable for everybody. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing, the limited time offers and stuff like that, and limited space and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of be transparent about that. But if you guys have questions, we've got about 2 minutes left on the break before we get back into content. So again, if you have any questions about the packages or other things related to persuasion and influence, you can ask those in the chat now. But as soon as we hit the 6:06 mark, I'm going to get back into the content of tonight's webinar so that we can focus on giving you the tools to go out and make the world exactly what you want it to be. Seth, tentatively January could be Marina Village. I have another venue that I am looking at as well. That might be in Encinitas. So it'll be the Marina Village, or it'll be at the Bamboo Garden Wellness Center. So, but it'll definitely be in San Diego. Any folks in YouTube world got a question? Any folks on the Zoom call that want to talk about things? Okay. All right, well then why don't we just go ahead and get an early start. All right, so, oh wait, Brian says, David, I'd love if you could find a minute to touch on ethics and tools that you find useful in wrestling that. Thank you. Brian, I don't know what you mean when I say talking about touch on ethics and tools, but let me give you let me get out of screen sharing really quick. So all right, let's talk about ethics a little bit. When we talk about ethics and persuasion and influence, what do we really mean, right? The problem that we have when we talk about ethical persuasion is it's a very subjective thing. I did a whole, maybe I'll add it as a bonus. I have a year-long coaching program. It's called the Unlimited Influence Mastery Coaching Program. We meet on Wednesday nights from 5 to 7. And one of the things that comes up a lot is, how do you deal with persuasion predators? And what constitutes manipulation? What constitutes a predatory mindset? How do you know these things? How do you navigate this ever complicated set of sensitivities and persuasion or boundaries that people have or don't have? And so ethics is something that we're always talking about. And one of the things that I'm really, really proud of about the system, it's ironic, actually, that the name of the system is called Killer Influence, but your modus operandi is to move through the world, making everyone you meet feel ridiculously good. That's actually our motto is we just move through the world, making everybody feel good. And what'll happen is when you do that, people just start giving you stuff. Like, one of the coolest things is listening after the first 2 or 3 couple of days of training at a Killer Influence content, everybody's getting free desserts from everybody, right? Or their Uber driver is falling in love with them, or all these interesting things. But so ethics is such a subjective place. Personally, for me, when I'm talking about ethics, my first question would be, well, where are your boundaries? What do you consider to be ethical versus unethical persuasion and influence, right? I draw the line at coercion of any kind. I draw the line at deception or intentionally causing emotional pain without a way out, if that makes any kind of sense. Those are the things that, to me, that's over the line, right? I've developed the entire system around this idea that you never have to lie, cheat, steal, or coerce anyone to do anything, right? And that's what I love about this. I have colleagues who I deeply respect, who have created, their persuasion systems, but they're not based around this concept of win-win. They're not based around the concept of an ethical boundary. They're based on the idea of get the result no matter the cost. And that, to me, even though what I'm teaching you could be used that way, it doesn't have to be to get what you want. And I'm not belittling those other systems. It's just, it was designed for a different purpose, if that makes any kind of sense, right? So they're very compatible. A lot of the methodologies work very, very well. So you have to decide for yourself. And we actually teach this in the training. One of the things that we talk about, we remember at the beginning of the program, I talked to you about how to think like a master of influence. Well, one of the things that we talk about in chapter 1 of the manual is the thought processes and the ethical considerations that influence and persuasion masters can have. And some of the reasons why people aren't successful with this kind of information. And one of the reasons is that they feel like they are somehow taking advantage of people, like they're deceiving or being tricky or sleazy or slimy, if that makes any kind of sense. And the way a lot of this material was originally brought out into the world, it kind of had that stench to it because the people who marketed it at the time, that was their hook, right? But it's honestly, it's if you understand the truth behind these skill sets, that if you understand what a person truly, deeply, emotionally wants and how they know they're getting it, all you have to do is show them a clear path to getting that thing by doing what you want, and they will do it. Now, one of the things I teach my students, and we're going to go into this in just a couple moments, we're going to talk about echo technique, and we're going to talk about the emotional bonding checklist, and then we're going to customize it a little bit, is that if you're eliciting a person's checklist, and as you go through that elicitation process, you come to the conclusion that what you have is not a fit for what they need, and you continue to do the process anyway, that to me is a form of unethical persuasion. Okay, and so let me elaborate on this, because it really is a good question, and it's something that I think needs to be talked about. There's this thing called short-term thinking, short-term behavioral change, and a lot of systems out there, which are far more complicated than ours, that's what they specialize in, actually, is getting people to do things in the moment that aren't necessarily in their best interest. That is not our way. That is not how we move through the world, okay? Our job is to find out what people want, know what we want, merge them together so that both of us get what we want for our own reasons, right? So that's the core of it. That's win-win no matter where you go. If you are like a lot of therapists, a lot of coaches, a lot of clients, a lot of times, especially when they're starting out, you know, they're working by referral. Now, one of the things that I understand and I appreciate and I respect the power of word of mouth, but here's something else that I have discovered about people who work, in many cases, word of mouth. People who work by word of mouth or market by word of mouth many times are also living hand to mouth. Like they barely have enough revenue at the end of the day to cover their bills and have something left over. Now, there's exceptions to every rule, but there's a lot more people living hand to mouth who are in the coaching, persuasion, therapist position than are not. And it's because we're healers at our core. We want to help people. We want to make a difference in people's lives. And so sometimes we short ourselves in asking for the value that we're providing, right? And a lot of times what happens is because rent's due next month and there's not a lot of clients coming in, there's this urge or this tendency to want to take any client and keep any client that sits in your chair, even if they're not a fit for you, right? And it's very, very easy, if you understand these processes that we're sharing together and everything in the Killer Influence system, to get that person to sign up as a client by leading them to believe that you can get them a change that you're not equipped to provide, or a service you're not equipped to provide. That to me is unethical persuasion. A better way to handle it is to take a more long-term approach. And this is what I have seen and what my students have seen when you apply these principles, these phenomena, the way I'm teaching you. If as you're going through the evaluation process, the emotional bonding checklist, and you make the determination that what you have to offer is not a fit for what this person needs. The most powerful, most influential thing you can do is tell them that. Tell them that and point them in the direction of a person or a resource that can solve their problem. Now, let me tell you why this is. The very fact, everybody who comes to you in a sales context is expecting you to try to sell them, right? We'll cover this more in Killer Influence. Why, whenever somebody presents you with a choice of coming to you or somebody else, always recommend the other person. We'll tell you why that is, but they expect you to try and sell them, right? They're painting you with an agenda. When you evaluate who the person is in front of you and you make the determination that you can't help them the way they need help, and you have the strength and the character to say, look, based on what you're telling me, what I'm doing or what I have to offer you is not a fit. But if you go to this person or this book and that book or this video course and that video course, that'll get you the change you want in the shortest amount of time possible. If you want, I'm happy to write you a referral. The very fact that you had the moral fiber and the strength to stand up and say, this isn't a fit for you, and I need you to know that, paints you in such an authentic, integral place in their heart that their regard for you will go up astronomically. Now, that won't pay your rent, but what will pay your rent is that person that you were upfront and honest with will go out and they will tell everyone they know, at least 6 people, of the amazing person you are and how trustworthy and authentic and reliable you are, because you did the right thing. So those 6 clients that they talk about or more, they'll pay your bills. Here's the best part about that. The person that's told those 6 people, they will move heaven and earth to find a reason to work with you again. Because the kind of connection and relationship that you've created with them is so compelling, so pleasurable, and so rare that they will make an excuse to come work with you for something that you can help them with. Okay, so when you're applying these skills, you can use them in the short term. Best case scenario, you're going to find what that person needs. You're going to be a direct fit. You're going to meld them together, and they are going to ask you to take the next level. That's how it's going to work, right? Every now and then, you're going to find someone who's not a fit, who doesn't work for the service you offer or the slot you have for them. Tell them that and point them in the direction of where to go, right? That's what I do. Right? There's many people who've called me and I said, look, based on the evaluation, based on everything else, this isn't a fit for you. Right? So I don't know if does that, I know I kind of went off on a tangent on ethics a little bit, but I felt it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks that people have. One of the reasons that they invest all this money and do all this training, and then they have this feeling that they're going to hurt somebody or they're hurting somebody by actually using it to make their lives better. Right? And we need to get past that. We need to understand that you, by the very act of being a human being out in the world, are subject to influence on levels you're not even conscious of. The fact that you're choosing not to consciously exert influence doesn't mean you aren't influencing people. You can't not influence them. So my question for you is, would you rather influence people by accident, at random? Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you, sometimes it helps people, sometimes it doesn't. Or would you rather direct influence with intention? Would you rather have an intention of what you want to do and have the tools and abilities to take the randomness out of your life? That's the question a lot of people who are training to be influencers and persuaders, we have to deal with. We have to really kind of resolve within ourselves, right? So, was this useful, or did I just waste like 20 minutes of our time, or actually only 12 minutes? Type in the chat if that was useful or not. Okay, good. All right. So here's where we kind of have fun. We're going to do two things, and we're going to integrate them into things for you. We're going to talk about the echo technique, which a lot of you know, but we're going to cover it again because once again, this is literally the most powerful, simplest tool for influencing human beings and creating connection I have ever found. And I've studied a lot of stuff, guys, right? There are well-known persuasion experts who have me in their bibliography, and they use this stuff too. All right. So let me ask you guys a quick question. What do you want to be able to do next? In other words, I'm going to teach you the echo technique. I'm going to teach you the emotional bonding checklist, right? It's on the to-do list. But where else, where do you want me, what direction do you want me to direct the rest of your training tonight? Do you want to focus on removing resistance, creating connection, generating attraction? How to, more state control? Type in the chat your top two questions. So Andrew's asking me about stories. Wow, okay. That's a shift. Okay. Creating connection. Okay, Peter says. Come on, guys. I know there's more than two of you in the chat. Creating connection and building attraction, resistance removal, emotional bonding. Okay, we're going to do emotional bonding for sure. Brian says just nuts and bolts stuff. Okay. Connection. All right. All right. Very good. Connection. Creating connection, resistance removal. Okay. All right. It's hard to, okay. Trust in the self. Okay. That's a state control issue, Amani. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's start with the most fundamental. All right. Now let's assume now, if we don't remember this, let's go back to our state control. Because one of the things I want you guys to remember that everything I'm teaching you is a stack. You guys know what I mean when I say stack? So we start with knowing our outcome, then we control our state, then we get rapport, then we use our language. Are you guys with me? That's the flow of what we're doing. That's the 50,000 foot view. So what if you had the ability to literally force someone's neurology to pay attention to you, only you, and nothing else, while at the same time generating the sense in this person that you know them better than they know themselves, that you've heard everything they've had to say, and you understand and even agree with everything that's come out of their mouth, even if you don't agree with it, without having to lie, cheat, or steal? Would that be a useful superpower to have? Yes or yes? What if at the same, go ahead and type it in the chat, yes or yes? Okay. What if at the same time, this one technique, or this one ability allowed you to create an ever deepening level of connection with this person? Would that be helpful? By a show of hands, or show of, that's me in the chat, how many of you fucking hate small talk? Like if you get in conversation, if you have to get in a conversation with a stranger, you're like, right? You're trying to find something cool to say. What if you never had to worry about having to find something cool to say ever again? What if in any conversation that you initiated, or was initiated with you, the person you were conversing with did 80% or more of the talking, and that by the end of talking with you, they thought you were the most fascinating person they've ever met? Would that be useful? Okay, this one technique does all of that and more. One technique, guys, one does all of that and more. And it's called, as you probably guessed, the echo technique. Here we go. The echo technique is, simply put, the way to get maximum attention in minimum time. One of the things I want you to write down, and this is really, really important, the currency of all relationships is attention. Let me repeat that 2 more times. The currency of all relationships is attention. Getting attention is easy if you use the right words. Keeping attention is even easier if you use the right words. What are those words? Those words are the words that just came out of that person's mouth. Let me repeat that in a slightly different way. The most powerful words any human being can hear are the words that just came out of their mouth. When a person hears their own words coming out of their mouth, it literally forces their neurology to pay attention to you to the exclusion of everything else. Now, you've all had experiences like this to a certain degree. How many of you, by a show of that's me in the chat, have ever been at a party where there was a lot going on and you're on one side of the room and someone all the way on the other side of the room says your name in conversation? They're not even talking to you, but they said your name, and from across the room, you heard it and turned your head to look who mentioned your name. How many of you have ever had that experience? Andrew says, that's me. Betty Ann says, that's me. How the hell does that work? You're in a noisy, crowded room. The person's not even talking to you. They said your name and you heard it through everything else. Here's why. Your other than conscious mind, your autonomic nervous system is aware of sounds and smells and tastes and other types of data that are filtered out from your conscious awareness. And it is because of your reptile brain, your paleocortex, it is constantly scanning the environment for anything that is relevant to you. Your autonomic nervous system is a selfish being. It only cares about what affects it. Okay? Now, when you speak, let me jump out of my OneNote for a second, just to kind of drive this home. When you speak to somebody, the words that come out of your mouth are a product of a countless number of filtering and reformatting processes. Think of it like, you guys, what's like the highest level of video that's available now? It's like 8K, yes? Imagine for a moment that your experience of reality is like this 8K video file, right? And you need to transmit that to another person or to another system. You ever try to send an 8K video file through like Yahoo Messenger or Gmail? Can't do it, can you? Why? The file's too big. So what do? When we're saving it for Instagram or YouTube or Shorts or whatever, we're taking this massive high definition file, right? And we're saving it down 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 and we're saving it down. Your neurology is doing this exact same process with your experience. We won't go through all the different filters that it comes to, but think of each of those step downs when it goes from an 8K to a 4K to a 2K to a 1000K to 500K to until it's the words that come out of your mouth. Think of each of those phases like a lock that those words are a key to. So when you finally get to the point where you're down to spoken words, the words that come out are a refined, edited, lossy version of the actual experience. But, and this is the most important thing, those words act like a key to lock fit to every filtering process in their neurology, from the neocortex to the limbic system to the paleocortex to the body. So it goes right through their rationalizations, their belief systems, their emotional history and experiences, and their primal drives. When you give a person's very own words back to them, you stimulate and massage all of that. And the nervous system is going, it can't not pay attention to that. Why? Because it's a perfect key to lock fit. Now, what happens is when you give that person their very own words back, some predictable things are going to happen. A, you're going to get their attention. Big time, to the exclusion of everyone else. In fact, one of the things that we have to do when we teach this in Killer Influence, and you'll learn this when you come to the training, is we encourage you to go out and use this on people who don't matter. Now, before I start pissing people off or pressing on buttons, let me explain that. You should be practicing these skills on people whose acquiescence or resistance to the technique don't matter. And you should do that a lot until this is such a normal everyday thing for you that when it's time to use it on somebody who matters, that's somebody whose decision you have to get in your favor, it just rolls out, right? It doesn't mean that people don't matter. What it means is you work on people whose acquiescence or acceptance of your information isn't going to cripple you. Does that make sense? Right? So one of the things I tell people is go out and practice on people who can't get away. Waiters, bartenders, waitresses, maitre d's, right, hostesses, and use these techniques to make them feel really good, but be respectful. And here's why this is important for you as well. When you go out and you start using the echo technique with other human beings, especially servers, they will pay attention to you more than any other customer. Let me repeat that. When you use this with people like servers and hostesses and waitresses, they will become so connected to you so quickly that they will tend to ignore the other customers in favor of you. Don't be surprised if you start getting free desserts or things just mysteriously don't get added to your bill. Happens quite a lot, right? Now, again, this is a baby technique, but think about what think about what it can do, right? We teach this early on. We teach this in all of our webinars because it makes everything better. It makes everything easier. And that's my job, to show you the fastest, simplest, most effective way to get your outcome. Echo technique checks all the boxes, right? In my world, a more advanced technique should make your life easier, and it should be easier to apply. If the technique requires more linguistic finesse, it only works in certain contexts, or you have to engage in any other form of behavioral agility to pull it off, it's not advanced in my world, right? Because advanced techniques should be easier and more reliable. That's my criteria, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But one of the things you're going to find out is that people will ignore everyone else. That's the first thing you'll start to notice. The second thing you'll notice is that they want to keep talking. This is nuclear for you guys. Why is this nuclear? It's because the longer they talk, the more connected to you they become. That's big. The longer you continue to echo their words, the deeper into connection and rapport and ultimately attraction people can start to become. Does that make sense? Type in the chat if you're with me. Okay. So this is your challenge. This is the first challenge I want. I want you to go out and I want you to adopt the echo technique as your natural, your standard operating procedure. I want you to embrace this concept, this idea as the way you're going to start communicating with people from now on. Anything else that you're going to do in terms of influence and persuasion is going to either include the echo technique or wind up coming back to the echo technique. So we're going to talk when we some of the ways we often go with these webinars. We talk about resistance removal. We talk about connection and attraction. We talk about romance or whatever. right? The idea is in therapy, especially, this is extraordinarily powerful, right? Because it actually enhances recall. One of the things we do in therapy a lot of times is when we reach somebody, we regress somebody to cause, and we're trying to get them to recall a memory that they've blocked out. What we actually do is we ask them, are you inside or outside, daytime or nighttime, alone or with people? It's just a quick decision tree. I said, look at your feet. You wearing shoes or are you barefoot? Look around, give me a report and tell me what happens. And they might say something like, well, it's just me standing in a room. Okay. And when it's just you standing in your room, what happens next? Just that little piece of echo brings the next data point into their memory. It recalls the memory. So what happens? So therapeutically, for those of you who are coaches or whatever, if you need to find what we call the moment of encoding, when somebody is gone to a level 9 on the trauma mechanism and their neurology has locked up and repressed that issue, and you want to recall the information, if you just step them through it using the echo technique, it'll come back piece by piece by piece. So for those of you who are coaches and therapists, very powerful in therapy. Okay. In romance context, sales context, voir dire, depositions, this is nuclear. Networking functions. Oh my God. If you're going to do any kind of networking like BNI or whatever, you start echoing people, they will run off at the mouth. And that's the beautiful part, because A, they're going to continue to self-disclose. They're going to just keep, the more you echo their words, the more they're just going to give you more and more and more of who they are as a person. So from a profiling perspective, you get a snapshot into who this person is. The best part is 80% of the conversation is done by the other person, but all the good feelings that are being generated are getting linked to you. So the longer they talk, the better you look emotionally and physically. Does that make sense? Okay. Next thing is, how can I say this? On a deeper level, it sends very, very powerful feelings of, I'm just like you, I get you, I understand you, I validate you, to the other person. And they release so much oxytocin and so much dopamine, because to be felt and heard and understood on that level is such a rare thing that they will move heaven and earth to keep it. There's something called loss aversion theory, which I want you to understand. And this is important when it comes to persuasion and influence. Remember that human beings will fight harder to keep something they have than they will fight to get something new. So pleasure and pain, loss and gain being the same. If I have a dollar in my pocket and I lose it, I'll experience 4 units of pain. You understand that? I'll feel it 4 times as strongly as if I found a dollar on the ground. I find a dollar on the ground, I get 1 unit of pleasure. Okay, so from a gravity perspective, pleasure has a gravity of 1, loss has a gravity of 4. So once somebody has experienced something with you that they love and they want to keep, they will move heaven and earth to keep it. So when you move through the world using the echo technique with people, you are giving them a gift of being heard, understood, validated, identified with, the same as. And that is such a rare thing. And once a person experiences that, they don't want to give it up. So they'll do things to keep that conversation and that relationship going. Does that make sense? Type it in the chat so I know. Again, this is the interactive portion of the webinar. Okay, so one of the things I used to do, this is back in my early days. We've refined it so much since then, but back in days when I had my own martial arts school, if you went a half a mile for the first couple of years I was in business, if you went half a mile in any direction, you would fall over one of these big franchise martial arts schools. There was one school in Coral Springs, Florida, where I had my business, East West Martial Arts, that had almost somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 active students. Okay, these were my competitors, right? Right up the street, there was a Fred Villari Shaolin Kempo school, had hundreds of students, Taekwondo schools everywhere, right? I'm this little rinky-dink dude, right? I had no, with zero marketing budget. How am I going to win? How am I going to actually put my school on the map? What I'm about to share with you is how I did it. So people would call me. So what you're going to hear is a combination of the echo technique and the emotional bonding checklist, right? I'm going to give you the demonstration of what it looks like organically, and then I'll walk you through the steps, and then we'll show you how to take it further or do resistance removal, okay? But before I do, let me just go ahead and give you one last thing about the echo technique and review the offer. The echo technique is a technique, and it's very easy to treat it that way. But if you really want to be how many of you just how many want to be effective at this technique? Type me in the chat. And then I want to ask you a different question. How many of you want to be unstoppable with this technique? Type hell yeah in the chat. Okay, because it's a mindset shift. One mindset can make you highly effective with this technique. A different mindset can make you unstoppable. Okay, and this goes to what we call conscious or heart-centered communication. If you view the echo technique, as a trick that you use to gain powerful connection with somebody because you're giving them their very own words back for them, it will work. And most of the time, it will work well. Every now and then, you might get caught, right? However, if you think of this technique a little bit differently, not in terms of deployment, but where you come from as an influence and persuasion expert, because that's what you are, right? If you come at this and you see the echo technique as a way of life. Let me give you a couple understandings of how this works. Think about this for a moment. If you had the ability to absolutely communicate with someone in such a way that they felt heard, paid attention to, understood, validated, but deeper and faster than they've ever felt with anybody else, and you intentionally chose not to use it, who's the asshole now? Think about it for a moment. If you knew instinctively, scientifically, the exact steps to communicate with anyone in exactly the way they've always wanted to be communicated with, you had the ability to give them that gift, and you didn't use it, who's the real jerk? Right? Now, why do I say this? Because if you move through the world understanding that that is the gift you have to give, that you want to move through the world truly understanding people and letting them know you get them, if you come from that place of wanting to communicate with them in the way they most need and want to be communicated with, it's impossible to be caught. Because even when you get caught, a person's going to look at you and say, why do you keep repeating what I say? All you got to do is look at them and say, because I want to understand you better, because I want you to know that I get you. Is that okay? And if the person says no, you've got other issues that have nothing to do with you. Does that make sense? Right? Okay. So that's the intangible part. That's the part that takes you from being effective, which is where we start, to being unstoppable. You know, again, at the risk of pulling back the curtain, right? A lot of you mentioned how authentic and how open. And some people even typed in the chat, the real David. That's the real David. Yes, it's because I took this idea of the echo technique and I made it a way of life. I incorporated it into everything I do, everywhere I go. I echo my administrative goddess, Stephanie, constantly. Why? Because I do it so much, because I know what it does. I know the power of it. It lubricates every relationship I'm in, whether it's a first-time meeting or a 30 or 20-year marriage. Adopt this. It's going to feel weird at first. Okay, that's called the spotlight effect. It's because it's a deviation from what you're used to doing. Doesn't mean they'll detect it. That's the beauty of it. Okay, but we're going to use this. So I want to go ahead and review the offer really quick. So if you were on the fence and you want to get one of those last remaining spots, you can click the link www.killerinfluence.com/go. And then when I come back, I'm going to give you the little demo of how I incorporated the echo technique and the emotional bonding checklist into my phone conversations for prospective clients. You can hear what that sounds like. And then we'll go from there. Is that okay? So Craig says, I've had to use echo on a couple thousand people. No one has ever said anything. It has made every relationship I have better. Thank you, Craig. Okay. All right. So really quick. So Secrets of Human Influence home study course. So this is what we got. This is what it'll do for you. It's a $2,497 value. It's going to include the weapons of mass instruction. It's a $1,997 value. How to use story and metaphor to have people rushing to the back of the room to teach them faster and better. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat. We're also going to include the Renegade Reframing Conversational Belief Change and Overcoming Objections in Seconds. It's a $1,997 program. We're going to give that to you free. We're also going to include the Charisma and Conversion Hypnotic Presentation Skills Package. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. If you're one of the first 21 people to register right now, you're going to get as a free fast action bonus, the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring 3-month trial and the archive, the 11-year archive. It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. We're going to include the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. So for those of you who want to download it tonight and get started right away so you can hypnotize people tomorrow, this is what's going to get you to do that. It's a $997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And then finally, we're going to include a free VIP super ticket to our Killer Influence 5-day covert hypnosis certification boot camp, January 23rd through the 27th here in San Diego, California. Once again, that's January 23rd through the 27th, San Diego, California. Total package value, if you were to try to buy these things individually, would be more than $13,325. You can get all of this along with the 60-day no risk money back guarantee for just one low installment of $997, or you can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $397 each. The fast action bonuses go away when I log off. The rest of the package is available until 11:59 p.m. tonight. All you got to do to get yours right now is go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. Click that link in your chat right now. It's www.killerinfluence.com/go. Make sure I've got everything right there. One last time, click that link right now. Go to www.killerinfluence.com/go. And we're going to get back to training. So this is what this would look like. Let me take a quick sip of something really quick here, so that I don't have to hack up a lung while I'm. Okay, little ginger ale is good for the throat. Okay. All right, so this is what it would sound like when I was back in the day when I was actually recruiting students for my martial arts class. Ring, ring. Good afternoon, Coral Springs Martial Arts Academy. This is David. How can I help you? Oh, hi, David. My name is Bernice, and I'm interested. I'm curious. I'm looking for karate lessons for my 10-year-old son, Josh. Can you help me? So let me see if I understand you better, Bernice. You're looking or interested in, you're curious about 10-year-old or karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh, and you were wondering if I could help you. Yeah, can you help me? Now, don't laugh, because people actually do that on the phone. They go, oh, yeah, it's like, how did he know? Right? Absolutely, Bernice. We have a lot of different programs available, but in order for me to figure out which is the best program for Josh, I need to know a little bit about what's important to you about karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh. Well, actually, David, it's actually an interesting story. See, Josh is a great kid, and he's really smart. He's 10 years old. He's so smart, in fact, that his teachers have actually moved him up a grade. So he's going to be moving up like from fourth, I don't even remember when, like fifth grade to sixth grade. And he's going to be with some bigger, older kids. And I'm afraid that that the kids might be, I might pick on him, or that he might feel a little bit less than confident. So I'd heard that martial arts was a great way for kids to really develop self-confidence, self-esteem, focus, and to stand up to bullies and stuff like that. Is that true? So let me see if I understand you correctly, Bernice. You're looking for 10-year-old karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh. And Josh is a great kid. In fact, he's really smart. He's so smart, in fact, that his teachers have moved him up a grade. He's moving from fifth to sixth. He's skipping fifth, basically, and going to sixth. Yeah, that's right, David. And you're worried that the older kids might pick on him, and you'd heard that martial arts was a good way for kids to develop confidence, self-esteem, and focus. And you were worried that you might be able to, the bigger kids might pick on him. Is that true? Yeah, David, can you help me? Bernice, you've come to the right place. Listen, the martial arts has been a way for hundreds of years for young people, small people, to develop focus and confidence and self-esteem and the ability to stand up to bullies. And as a byproduct of karate training, your son is going to develop the confidence and the focus and the courage to stand up to people who are bigger than him, to exert himself and really to flourish in the sixth grade. Even though the kids are bigger than him, he's going to walk tall because he'll have the confidence, the focus, the self-esteem, and the physical skills to actually protect himself. Wow, that's amazing, David. So you can really help me? Absolutely, absolutely. Now we have a couple of ways that we can get Josh started. One of our programs is a 2 private lesson class and 1 group class. It comes with a free uniform. And we have an opening for that program today at 5:45. We also have a 3 group class introductory program that also comes with a free uniform that starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. Which is better for you? I think the 2 privates might be the best approach, because that'll give Josh a little one-on-one, and he can start to feel comfortable. So what do I need for that? All you need to do is give me your name, address, and phone number. We'll pencil you and Josh in, and I'll just need a size for his uniform. And we'll see you tomorrow at 5:45 for his first private class. That sound like a good thing? Absolutely, David. Thank you so much. I'm really glad I called. You too, Bernice. Have a great day. Click. Okay. So, Brian, we're in part 3, right? So, what'd you pick up? What'd you learn? What'd you take away? Oh, shit, he's asking me questions. By the way, 9 out of 10 people showed up for that private lesson, and about 9 out of 10 signed up for that private lesson, right? When I was seeing clients for 15 years, this was part of my intake. This is something I would always do with every client. She didn't have, you're right, she didn't. Because most of the time, when you've tapped into somebody's emotions, cost goes right out the window. John says she sold herself. Yes, because I didn't sell her. Let me be very clear what you experience here. I didn't sell her. I found out from her exactly what she wanted to buy. I determined that I could fulfill that need. And I talked about only the aspects of my product or service that directly satisfied that need. Think about all the things I could have talked about that I didn't. I could have talked about how many trophies my students have won at tournaments. I could have talked about how some of my students have actually had to use this stuff on the street to protect themselves. I could talk about how martial arts is a great way to develop health and fitness and flexibility. But none of those things came out of Bernice's mouth. So they didn't come out of mine. This is the secret, and why a lot of people in NLP who are taught this one piece in a whole salad of other things get it wrong. When you're presenting something to somebody's emotional needs, you have to know exactly how they recognize what they're getting. So one of the complimentary questions that you can ask people is, how do you know? Now, in the Bernice case, it was obvious what she wanted, but I could have drilled down and said, well, you know what? Confidence means a lot of things to a lot of different people. I'm curious, how do you know when someone's truly confident? And she would have given me a checklist of how she knows when confidence is being expressed. Could I have done that? Absolutely. Would I have used it in my presentation? Yeah, you betcha. Did I need to? No. If you want these deeper level nuances, you'll learn it in the program, you'll learn it at the live training. But for most of you, this is what you need to understand. You need to know what they want, how they know they're getting it. I hope you're writing this down. You need to know what they want, how they know they're getting it, and how to use your words to marry what they want to what you offer. Now, going back and again, rewatch this section of the video because there's a lot going on here. When possible, I gave back Bernice's words verbatim. There's lots of ways for you to cloak the echo technique and still use it, where it doesn't sound like the echo technique. But for training purposes, for real world applications, you can't go wrong using as much of what the person said as possible in your responses. Because the moment they hear their words come back, every meaning, every emotion connected to those words gets stimulated. Who are they looking at when that stimulation happens? You. Who gets connected and bonded and becomes the symbol of all those feelings and the fulfillment of those needs? You do. And all you have to do is keep cycling through that process and describing what they want and which parts of your product or service or relationship satisfy it, and they will eventually do business with you by default. Notice when I had you do at the beginning in part 1 of the webinar, when I had you do the emotional motivation checklist, I had you repeat those words. How many times? How many times did I have you repeat that list? You guys remember? Ryan's got a great comment here. It's easy to give back if you're listening well. This process actually forces you to listen to people better. So not only does it give the impression that you're paying attention, you actually are. You're actually giving them the very thing they want most. So everybody's saying 7. Why do you think I said 7? Why do you think I made it 7? Because that's all you need to do. The more times you cycle through the very words they gave you and you link what you offer to what they want, you just keep cycling through it, telling more stories. At some point, they're going to heave a sigh. You're going to get the doggy dinner bowl look. And more often than not, they'll ask you to buy. If by some chance they don't ask you, all you got to do is say, how soon do you want to get started? Or alternatively, What's the next step we need to take to move you forward? I could have said to Bernice, Bernice, just so I understand you better, how soon do you want to get started? Or I could have said, okay, so based on what you told me about Josh and what your wants and needs for Josh are, what's the next step we need to take? Which of these programs is going to be the best fit for your situation? That's your close. That's the hardest close I do. Because if I do this properly, I don't have to convince people. They convince themselves. Think about for a moment how inspired you were to click those links and take the next step after you realized you were getting everything you wanted from the training. Right? I figured out what you wanted to buy. I gave you the opportunity to buy it. If it wasn't a fit, that's why I kept going back over these questions. If you answered these questions at least 2 or more times, this is where you need to be. If you only answered it once, but 2 or more, you need to be clicking that link. Why? Because you deserve it. You might not be convinced of that yet, but these are the things that motivate, inspire, and move you forward towards the life you want. They're the things you said you wanted. I didn't come up with these, you did, right? Human beings never resist themselves. And this is something you can literally take to the bank, to the bedroom, to the classroom, to the treatment room. It is the secret to getting everything you want, right? It's just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of ways to leverage and utilize this ethically and honestly, but you have to decide you're ready for it. You have to decide you really want that, right? So that's the ECHO technique. That's what the emotional bonding checklist looks like. It simultaneously amplifies connection, compliance, rapport, trust, and relationships, right? When you use this with someone and you successfully fulfill on your promise, you've created a customer for life. It becomes very, 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 very hard for someone to take that customer away from you, even if they offer a lower price, because of the relationship, the connection that you build with that person. Okay. Questions about this? Casanova saying, help me sell solar panels, David. You don't need to sell solar panels, dude. All you got to do is figure out why they might want solar panels and what's important to them about that, and point out the aspects of your product or service that directly satisfy it, and just keep going through it, right? The only time you'll ever need to overcome an objection is if you miss the values, if you miss the checklist. Okay, more about emotional bonding, all right? Emotional bonding happens whenever people tell stories. Okay, this is one of the things you can take to the bank. All right, before I move into this, the power of story bonding, let me go ahead, and this will be the last time I'm going to give you guys a chance to click the link. All right, so before we go into story bonding, let me again review this for you. Has this been useful so far, by the way? Has this been helpful? Has this made your life easier? Okay, so once again, this is the Secrets of Human Influence home study course. It's a $2,497 value. There's a ton of freebies that come along with this, including the Weapons of Mass Instruction, Storytelling, and Metaphor Secrets. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. We're going to include the Renegade Reframing Home Study Program. This is how to change any belief, overcome any objection or limiting belief, or win any argument in seconds during normal conversations. We're going to give this to you free. It's $1,997 value. We're going to include the Charisma and Conversion Hypnotic Presentation Skills for Presenters. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And we're going to give you the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. This is a three-month trial for you to come in, roll up your sleeves, do the drills, and get the skills to put these techniques that you're learning into greater and greater levels of application, right? It's a hands-on training program. So $1,597 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. We're going to include the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course valued at $997. This comes with a ton of freebies, a ton of audios, videos, all designed to get you up and running in just a couple of hours. Like you download it tonight, hypnotize people tomorrow. It's that fast. We're going to give this to you as a way to fast start your training free. We're also going to include the Killer Influence VIP 5-day certification super ticket, January 23rd through the 27th here in San Diego, California. It's a $2,250 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free because the fastest way to personify and embody these skills is to get in a room with me for 5 solid days and let me drill you like a martial artist on the tools and techniques to go out and get everything you want the way that you want it. Okay? It's not an idle boast, my friends. Okay? Total package value is more than $13,325. You can get it all for one teeny tiny investment of $997. And if you need a little extra time, a little extra help, you can even break that up into 3 installments of just $397. Getting everything you want in life, honestly, has never been easier or less expensive and risk-free. Remember, it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Click this link right now. This is the last time I'm going to go through this. And get your seat. Okay. www.killerinfluence.com/go. www.killerinfluence.com/go. Okay. So let's talk about story work really quick, and then we'll put a cherry on tonight's webinar. So one of the things that people bond with is through story. One of the things you're going to begin to discover as you work with 3 Magic Questions protocol, you work with the emotional bonding, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about very, very briefly. We go way in depth in this in the Killer Influence training, and in your programs, you'll learn the resistance removal, you'll learn the 3 Magic Questions protocol, you'll learn the deeper levels of emotional bonding, how to mask the echo technique. So it sounds like you're saying something different every time, but you're actually saying the same stuff. Lots of ways that you can work this organically into every conversation in a natural, fun way. But for training, we want you to do everything verbatim. Okay. Where do I sell? Solar, Killer Influence, primary training, right? You can also get Stealth Selling Secrets. You can actually probably swap that out for one of the other courses in your package if you want that. That's actually an older course that I co-taught with James C2, a very, very good course. Okay. Pardon me. So one of the things that's going to happen when you start talking to people is, depending on the context, they're going to start to tell you stories, right? This phenomena in Planet David and Killer Influence, we call this analog matching. And so this is a way that human beings naturally bond, okay? It happens organically. I'll describe this in a dating context. So guy and a girl are out. Now remember, it doesn't have to be a guy and a girl. It could be 2 girls, 2 guys, could be 2 non-binaries. I don't give a shit, right? But one of the things that always happens in a romantic context is the process of moving deeper into connection and rapport or away from connection and rapport. One of the ways that happens is person A tells a story. Like maybe person A is telling a story about this amazing vacation to Fiji that they took, right? And as the person B is listening to person A talk about their amazing Fiji vacation, right? In the back of their mind, some people were asking about transderivational search before. There's this thing called a transderivational search that's going on in person B's brain. He's flipping through files, or she's flipping through files, trying to find vacation. Where are all my vacations? And then he finds the vacation file. Okay, where's my best vacation? What's the closest thing I have to what person B is talking about? They find the file and they just sit there and they wait. They wait for for person A to finish talking so they can tell their vacation story. That's called analog matching. If you want to take your emotional bonding deeper, the way you deepen your emotional bonding is when it's time to tell your story, you tell your story briefly, but you use their words to tell it. So if person A is saying, I went to this vacation, it was absolutely magical. It was the most peaceful, relaxing, yet exciting experience I've ever had, right? Person B says, wow, that is so cool. So you went to Fiji and it was the most magical, exciting, peaceful vacation you've ever had. That reminds me of a time when I went to Hawaii, and it was really magical. It was like everywhere I went, everything was like calm, but there was this energy that made it really exciting. And it was like this combination of, like you said, magical and exciting and relaxing all at the same time. And I think it's so amazing how those kind of tropical locations can really just reach inside and wash everything away. And the person goes, oh my God, that is so true. We went to this one. And all of a sudden, what you'll hear is this person, you can actually boomerang it. So once person B has done that. So tell me more about your vacation, right? So I listened to their words. I found an analog. I used their words to tell my story. And then I asked them another question about their vacation. Now they're going to talk. You know what I do? I echo, I listen, I repeat the words back, I ask another question, and I'll just spiral them deeper and deeper and deeper into connection. Okay. That is called analog matching. That is another way that you can recurse with. You can do that with the emotional bonding checklist. You can use that during normal conversation. They will talk your ears off forever. And the longer they talk, the more connected to you they become. Okay. Make sense? Type it in the chat. Excellent. Did you guys have fun? Did you learn a lot? What the hell just happened? Okay. All right. Hold on a second. I've somehow or another. Hold on a second. This is weird. Anyway, in the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I want to thank you all. I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long, my friends. I love you all. Click those links right now before it's too late. Reserve your seats, come train with us, and start going out into the world and getting everything you want in life by helping everybody else get what they want. I love you. Good night. God bless. Take care.